covered all 11 parishes when we are done tonight. And next month we return to the parish of St. Joseph. And here comes the Attorney General and MP for St. Joseph. As indicated earlier, once you are from the parish of St. Thomas, you are free to make any contribution tonight. If it is something personal that you don't necessarily want to discuss in front of the audience, you can still give your contact information at the table on the outside, and one of us will contact you within 24 hours. If you are planning on speaking tonight, remember you should go to the table on the outside and give them certain basic information. They will give you a number, and once you've done that, come back and take one of these chairs down the center, and you will come to the mic, which is in front of you in the same order in which you approach the table. Once you've finished speaking, you can sit anywhere else in the audience, leaving the seats free for the other persons who are coming behind you. Hopefully we will not be here until too late, but St. Thomas tends to be a very provocative session, and I don't think tonight will be any different. So welcome again, and I'll turn you over to Prime Minister, and we will go from there. Prime Minister?
Got some juice. Hello. Good afternoon. You can hear me? Good evening. Good evening. First of all, let me thank you, Roy. And as I've come to do in recent times, this is about you, and we try to get in as early as possible, and we will engage or say anything in between. So there won't be any long preamble. What is your name, sir? Come to the mic. Yep. Gather the mic and let's get the ball rolling.
Ms. Ford, Minister Ford, Ms. Ford, thank you very much for welcoming us to St. Thomas. And I know that initially when we were planning this, we were to meet at Lester Vaughan School, but we hadn't got the all clear. I'm happy to report, Mr. Morris, that the all clear has come in environmentally for Lester Vaughan now. And at the appropriate time, I'll let the chief speak during the evening so she can address this issue for those whose children go to school here in St. Thomas. But for the moment, we start the ball rolling with you, sir. Thank you.
Good night, Madam Prime Minister, members of your team, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. I just got three small issues.
Name and address.
Oh, sorry. My name is Samuel Maynard. I'm from Vault Road, Vetchford Hall, St. Thomas. My number is 234.
No, we don't need a number.
Okay, no
Unless
problem.
you want somebody to call you later.
No. Three small issues. First one is housing. We were promised 10,000 houses in.
No, not were. I think your tense is significantly wrong, sir.
Okay.
Because unless you think that we belong to some kind of movie or Star Trek or Bewitched with Elizabeth, you would know that the tense is wrong. I think that you may be talking about the last election when we also met on different sides, but that's not the problem. We have and are promising 10,000 houses.
Okay.
Are.
Okay, no problem. My challenge is with the 10,000 houses, the way in which it's gone about. I think if the government really going to help along the smaller man, the price per square foot, which the land is sold to the developer, could be sold to the smaller person. The smaller person, in turn, could approach a lending agency because they got the name on some land, secure their own loan, and build their home. And I think it will be way cheaper than to go the other route.
I think you're going to find that there's a combination of those. That is what you effectively call the Sites and Services Program, and there will be a mix in there for that. And that has worked well for some people. In some other areas, I've known where government and people got land 15, 20 years ago, and not even a blade of grass get cut off of the land, far less a foundation dig. So I think you're going to find that you have to have the mix for the different categories of people within. There's some people who don't want to deal with a contractor at all. I can carry you now in my constituency and introduce you to somebody who lost $25,000 on a contractor. And it's only by the mercy of God that their family was able to come together and overcome that loss so that she could continue the construction. So I think you have to have a mix. But the point is that there is a demand for housing, and it is a pent-up demand, quite frankly, largely because of a combination of people not having the space in the pocket to go forward and get the mortgage, especially when people may have lost jobs or when things were very, very tight. A combination of not a lot of capacity in the country. Regrettably, we are discovering that if we want to move things to an industrial scale, it requires a different attitude and mindset, not just with the contractors and the tradesmen, but from the financial institutions to the lawyers, to the contractors, to the tradesmen, at every level. And we are literally deconstructing that path now, because as I said in the budget last week, we built just under 1,200, thank you for the water, we built just under 1,200 houses in the last 22 months or so. But the truth is that I want to build that in 1 year flat for one entity alone, minimum of 1,000, 1,200 a year. I'm satisfied that we can do it. Senior Minister Duguid will tell you up to this evening, what he has sent me has been a list of all of the government lands, separate from the other lands that we are looking to acquire, because in some instances you need larger plots of land for the efficiency for those who want to do affordable housing, because you don't make your money on each house, you make your money on the volume of houses, and that's why a lot of contractors do not like to do affordable housing at the larger scale. Okay?
Okay. Second question. In relation to energy, how much of Barbados' energy is derived from alternate energy?
I think it's about 10, 12%. No, it's about 10 or 12%. I can't remember at the moment. But our real hold-up, as you know, is that until we have grid stability, we can't expand at the rate at which we would like to. The banks indicated last week that they have over $500 million in loan applications to do renewable energy. But until we can get to the point of being able to have storage, which is what will provide the grid stability, we can't move at the pace at which we would like. And that's what I addressed in the budget last week too, that we are going to have to, we're going to go for a pre-qualification for those who want and are interested to come to the table, and then we will look at direct negotiation in conjunction with a price cap that the Inter-American Development Bank and Deloitte are working with us to be able to settle. And I'm told that we should have that price cap by May, June, which means that on a parallel track, we want to be able to do the pre-qualification so that we know who we can negotiate with. In the scheme of things, what Barbados is looking for is very, very small, almost nano globally. But because it is so small, it means that people will look at the bigger orders before they look at the small ones with us, because they're looking to see how they can gain on the larger.
Okay, understood. Last question. In relation to national insurance, is there anywhere that the government, when larger projects are being constructed, they got any oversight into national insurance contributions?
To the best of my knowledge, and I would have repeated it again last Monday, that where we are working with people who are working for us, we try to ensure that they have a clearance certificate with national insurance, with BRA, with the different entities. I won't tell you that it is always perfect because I'm not there doing it, so I can't tell you off the top of my head. But suffice it to say, that's the principle.
Okay, thank you.
Good, good evening, Madam Prime Minister, your team, and everyone in earshot of my voice. Kathy Ann Clark, Browns Gap, Jackson, St. Michael. First of all, I want to say that stemming off from the parish meet that we held last year at Estevan, when it spoke about the drainage down behind Pugel's shop, I've seen some improvement there, so I'm glad for that. But following on that, I also want to know, how do you all get to paving this road at just here by Sharon School and could pass my gap? My gap needs doing. My gap, Browns Gap. Browns Gap really wants doing.
Hold on, I want you to make a case not just for Browns Gap. So I want to make a case for Browns Gap. Huddersfield turning for my two. Both Browns Gap get left out. Browns Gap plays church too?
It might be on Browns Gap, because they got Browns Gap in Sergeant Village too. So but I am speaking in particular about mine, the one that I live through, that I have to be in every day.
I'm making a little light of it, but the truth is that all can't get do one time. But I'll let Santia speak and explain. But with time, we will do as many as we can.
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm seeing that, and I'm very pleased about it, because there are some roads that I really feel proud driving on, right? But I still want mine done. Yeah, I know it can take time and everything, right? But I mean, because I watch all the roads that are getting done and saying, okay, Coleman Road get due, True Body Harpers get due, up here get due. So what happened with Browns Gap? You go past Browns Gap to get up here. You understand? Right? But yeah,
Making sure is that is early in the next mix. I don't blame you, but as I say, put in Browns Gap Huddersfield turning for me, because I can assure you that Browns Gap Huddersfield turning in a worse situation.
All the Browns Gap in Barbados. Right. So that's one that needs working on. The Jackson Community Center, I want to know what are in the plans for that, because that is just there sitting idly by. It's not dilapidated, well, not as yet, but you know, I believe that things can be done there.
You want to say that it is inappropriate, and God spare life. I would hope that before I leave public life, that we can have a proper community center in Jackson. Okay. Because on both sides of the road, the people deserve it. Okay? But I think that I've tried to say that we've tried to moderate, and we have to give all over the country. I'm trying to ensure that we get the bleachers in. I announced last week that we're going to put 2 more tracks in, one in the north and one in the south. And so long as the growth continues as we're doing, that is a priority. Why? Because Jackson effectively and Arthurseat and surrounding areas have not had, Cynthia, when last had a proper community center out here?
There isn't a proper one in the parish at all. There's none.
Okay.
I know that community development is here, and they will support us with looking to do something. What we had originally looked at would have been doing something on the front road, where
the shop was?
Where the building exactly the shop and the old, what it used to call it again? Rio
Supermarket?
Rio Grande.
Oh.
Where that was knocked down. We were looking to be able to do something there, and that will be able to facilitate everybody.
Okay.
All right? Okay. So it will be God's prayer life, it will get there. But I couldn't guarantee you, because remember, as I keep reminding people, the first 19 months was about debt restructuring, and the next 2.5 years, 3 years was a combination between COVID and also the ashfall and the Hurricane Elsa and the freak storm. But we now getting a little strength where we can begin to play some shots and begin to plan out some things. It will not be a bounty, but we can do better, and we will do better.
Okay, great to hear that. I'm hoping that before I leave this earth, that I'll be able to see some improvements done in Jackson, because I've been living down here. I'm 53 now, and I was in Jackson from the time I was 5 years old. So, so I'm continually monitoring movements, progress, everything. So that's why I'm
And for those who don't know, what Kathy Ann is calling a community center is a converted public bath. So that you would know that that is not in any way appropriate or suitable for the large population density and the high population density that we have out this side. So it is on the table, but as I said, we had to do a number of other things. We're trying to finish the Youth Advanced Core dormitories, and that will be dormitories that will allow us to take kids in the Youth Advanced Core at scale, so that we can ramp up to the numbers of 1,000 per year to make sure that the island has productive young people going. But on a parallel track, we're looking at some designs. Okay?
Okay, great. That basically are my main two concerns for St.
You say the drainage behind the shop, like things
yeah,
working.
there's some improvement there, yeah, because when we do get the heavy rain, it's not flooded like how it used to be. You probably may just get a slight bit, but not as much, right? So yes, there was some improvement there. But I also have another question. Why is it taking so long for the Barbados Revenue Authority to give back tax refunds to companies, small company in particular?
This is long to get back what?
VAT refunds.
VAT refunds?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but we'll check on it for you. It should be usual because we're back to normal. Remember, we inherited a government where we weren't even getting income tax refunds and nothing.
Yeah, I
for
understand
5-6
that.
years. So let me find out what has happened. Usually when that happens, there's usually a cash flow hump that they're going through, but you'll get it.
But this is from 2011.
No, that means that something is wrong. So you need
Up
to
to
go
today,
in.
I checked it, and it's still saying pending.
No, and that may be something wrong in the system. So I'd like to encourage you to go in and meet with them.
Okay. Because I sent
Right.
them a
Roy?
follow-up email.
Could you make sure that Ms. Clark goes in and meets with them?
Okay.
Because that's 2011 would be wrong. And let me tell you why. We would have cleared most of the arrears when we came in. And there is an amount that we're still working down, but for the most part, it's not going that far back. So that's why I say that something.
Well, I
probably
hope
wrong.
that mine's still there, though.
No, you go in and deal with them.
Right. I will do that. I will take that advice. Because I did follow up with calls and emails. I got responses, but I need to see the money, not just the talk. Right? My final one is that roundabout down there by the clinic, Warren's Clinic, what we call the Eunice Gibson Clinic. I find that there are markings, but people need to learn how to use the roads. Because I'm coming from Jackson every morning and heading down to Green Hillside. So therefore, I'm supposed to pick up the right lane into the closest to the roundabout. But still yet you got those that are coming from Huddersfield and those that are picking up the left lane, coming from the same Warrens that coming and they're actually pushing you, out of that space. I know there might not be much that y'all can do now because there are markings there already. But just that I want to send out a warning to people to learn how to use
I actually
the roads.
think when we first introduced it, show my age now. When we first introduced Jam Buster, they had to have a set of PSAs. You remember that? All on TV and thing. And Santa, I think you might have to do some more on how to use the highway, because we assume that everybody knows, and truthfully they don't. So we'll do that. And at the same time, I'm going to ask you, the white lines there on the ABC highway are all gone, and they need to be put back in, especially where the vendors for the coconuts are. I've made the point that we need to, and we're working with Senior Minister to be able to try and get a vending space down that side in the same way that we got up at
Newton side.
At Newton side.
Right.
And there's a reason. I keep telling you, and I have dreams sometimes of somebody skidding out there with them coconut shells and life being taken.
Or one even coming in and landing into your main screen too, something.
Well, that too. But I'm talking about actually people losing their life, because if you pick up a skid on one of them coconut things, you don't know where and how the car can go, especially if the tires are bald and not too good.
No.
Secondly, people selling snow cones and other things on the shoulder. It cannot work. When you do that, somebody is going to lose their life. And even if you are not the one losing the life, your actions may cause somebody in the car. Santi and I were just here talking about an accident that she was familiar with in the States where 2 people dead in the front seat. We can't be taking these chances. And there's no need for it. And that is why the government has spent money. If you see all the hoarding there by Redmond Village, you see that we're doing a vending site there.
Yeah.
We're going to do something. I'm waiting, as I said, on Senior Minister to get back to us on the one with Warrens. There are going to be vending sites all across the island. But I'm asking Barbadians for us to apply our hearts to wisdom. Because if something goes and happens, the most we can do is come here by churchyard and long chair is going to come and we say, we shoulda, we coulda, but we didn't. And I'm saying that this is a country where we know better. Let us get and do better. And then the other thing is, if you leave these things on the road, and I'm not excusing government, the others know how I feel about the collection of the bush when the bush cut on the side of the road. I would like to be able to lead a government that knows that one day it will be picked up immediately as it is done, on the same day that it is done. Because those two go back into the gutter, and then that's how flooding happens as well. But I'm also saying to you that I genuinely believe that there are things that we can do together to make our living on this small island better, but it requires cooperation. You leave the coconut shells there, the water goes in them, becomes stagnant, what's the next thing?
Get rats.
And that's the least of the problem, because the rats don't travel as fast as the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
The mosquitoes is travel faster, and the mosquitoes you don't even see sometimes when the mosquito bite you.
Just
You only
feel it.
know. And sometimes you may or may not, but then you know you got dengue. So look, we can do this together as a people, but it means being considerate of each other. And if everybody agrees, just as we've done up at Newton, that we come off the road to buy what we need to buy, then we keep the people who selling safe, and they keep the people who buying safe. And if we can do that in a way where we remove the garbage every day, then we have a situation where we are not creating public health nuisances that will increase the percentage of dengue cases or problems with leptospirosis or other things. So thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy wanted to speak? Cindy?
Thank you very much. A blessed good evening to everyone. Thank you all for coming. Prime Minister, now that we are on the topic about warrants, would you allow me please to make another recommendation? I've already written to the authorities, but nothing has happened. In the same way that Kathy Ann spoke just now about the dangers at the Warrens roundabout, the pedestrian crossing at Warrens needs I would say a traffic light. Because persons are going up and down in order to get to Warren's Polyclinic. There are persons who are using wheelchairs, walkers, walking sticks, people accompanying them, and the pace they're going through is really very slow because of the age, or the injury for that matter, because young people get injured too. But my biggest concern is that the ZRs that block, they pick up on the same pedestrian crossing, it is extremely dangerous. And I've recommended, and I hope that it will be followed in the interest of not only the residents of St. Thomas, but any other users on that road, that there be a traffic light. In the same way we can put one at Combermere, we've put some at Springer Memorial. The population there is so much less than the persons who are trafficking in and out of Warrens to get to and fro to the malls and all that. I am concerned about not only the seniors, but any pedestrians at all who have to cross at that very busy junction, that we put some kind of light that it can be pressed so that those persons who are ambling and going along can get that opportunity to be able to do it and do it as safely as is possible. The other thing about Warrens, and I'm seeing it in other areas, is that businesses are now posting their business, what do you call it, billboards, with some chains as thick as about 6 inches, so that nobody can cut them down, but they're on the sidewalks themselves, leading in the Warrens area and all the way down. And people have to step into the road in order to bypass them. To my mind, it says that those who are in authority from the transport ministry and other places should take some measure of having them removed. Some of them say cat food is sold here, dog food is, and people's lives are in danger. And a lot of them are also at the roundabouts, more so at Warrens than anywhere else I have seen, but I believe none should be there at all unless they are posted on poles or something, but not in the middle of the pedestrian crossings, or excuse me, not the pedestrian crossing, the sidewalks, because that is one of the most dangerous things that I have ever seen happen in this country. And because of the speed with which the people come through in the roundabouts, that adds to the confusion. Because in a mini now, and the Swifts are carrying the swear, and the Swifts are causing most of the accidents in Barbados now, I must tell you. And when the Swifts get alongside that sign that is so tall, they cannot see what is coming from the other angle. And I believe that as early as tomorrow morning, every effort should be put in place to have those signs removed, or the persons who have put them there remove them, or some kind of penalty should be paid if they are not removed by the beginning of next month. And that is really my biggest challenge there. And the final one is to do with
I think on that quick one, Cynthia, I think that we're going to have to come up with a mechanism for advertising. And what really the public is saying is that they want to be able to advertise. And in the absence of an appropriate framework for advertising, they're then using every opportunity. But in doing so, they're creating a public nuisance and a risk to people's lives. So we hear you loud and clear, and I would ask Senior Minister, as Minister of Planning, that you also come up with what is an acceptable. Barbados doesn't necessarily want to look like how other countries necessarily look, but I think that we can find a way. That we've had these electronic boards and other things, and so long as it's reasonably affordable, then it's a legitimate form of advertising that does not in any way cause harm to the road users.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I'll just pause there because other members of the I almost say congregation of the audience may want to make their comments.
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister. Good evening, MP Ford and ministers, members of the government, and fellow parishioners. My name is Wayne Hoyt. I reside at Athersley Road, Jackson. Right? I was here last year, and I made a presentation regarding, now that we were here on the topic of road safety, right? That's one of the points that I wanted to touch on in terms of, for the general, this whole commercial area, which is Jackson, Warrens, H.O., King Garden, Kingwood Road, etc. I realized the effect Quarry Road was recently done in terms of repaving and stuff. The road is smooth, yes, and you drive through there even ease. But my concern is that, is in the school district. The school is right there, and there are a lot of children who traverse the road there, and there are no sidewalks were put in place, no markings and signage pertaining, like to slow down, no humps, nothing like that was put in place. And what you're doing now, you're putting the children at risk and other pedestrians, because the road is so smooth, you have persons who would increase their speed when driving. So those things need to be looked at, for implementation in the near future. And I want to remind the Prime Minister last year, she did remind us of the terrible accident that happened some years ago, almost 40 years ago, to be precise, when a young lady lost her legs, right, at the bus stop. Kering, right. Kering was one of my schoolmates as well, so up to now, if you walk that road, it's a very dangerous road to walk. And there are school children, not only from Sharon Primary, but from Leicester Vaughan, who traverse that road every evening and mornings. So those are things that, to me, should be priority in this busy, busy, busy district.
It's coming, but the whole country busy, 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 as you've heard in every parish. Every parish speaks, but it is coming. You understand? And the problem is that you are suffering from being my constituent in part in this regard, because there's an old saying
Was
that
that
FSB, family stand back, which means that the St. Michael Northeast has not necessarily gotten the best end of the stick, but we are trying to taper it out now.
Okay, and on
And
that,
St. Thomas is on the other side, as you know.
exactly. And the issue of drainage as well in the area. I'm on the other side of Cafian. So when the rain falls, there's a lot of water that comes down my street. There are lots of water, not only on the road, but they come off the properties that on the right-hand side of the road. All the water runs from the properties because it's on a
I think
slope.
the gentleman to your right, who was to your left, who was also who is to you on the other side of the highway. You understand? Both of you have a relationship to the highway. It's just one is one side and the other is the other side. But I think that he will appreciate that it's not only there too. When you come in by Tull, how many times
And that's
have we
the area
visited
that's the
out
area
there?
that I want to speak about.
And the water coming out there onto that part there. So this is a whole ecosystem. But what they're not also saying, if you miss and go and walk through the gully and go under the highway,
I'm aware of that.
in the tunnels, I tell it for the others, because I know you would know. Because if you go by your family and go down the bottom and go down the side, by Oscar and them, and go in the gully and go right through. But I ain't talking about that for your benefit. I'm talking about it for the others' benefit, because there are two things I'd like to be able to see. When you go into that tunnel, you see the watermarks, and you see how high the water comes down. And that is the water coming straight from St. Andrew, they tell me. You understand? So that when you really get floods, that water is sometimes 9-10 feet high going through there. So there's a whole ecosystem, Mr. Yearwood, and I think we need to be able to see how best we are working and capturing. I would imagine that it comes down through Canewood Hill. And go down through the gully.
Even in the Warren Industrial Park East, also there's a lot of water that flows through.
Coming back,
with his guardsman, the security. There's a lot of water that comes through that area there, and then goes right where it flows right back down to in the same Warren bottom. The water flows right. There's a bridge there by Baybal Towers, correct? Right behind there, the water flows there as well. But my suggestion was, a way of trapping some of that water, or also how it runs on the road as well. Because when the rain falls, persons who have to walk the street cannot walk because the water is there for quite a few minutes flowing. In that same area, which is opposite where I live, I made this point last year where there was some construction going on in the Warrens industrial area, and the persons responsible for the construction, I don't know how they work with the planning department or the Ministry of Transport and Works and stuff, but I believe that if you're going to do a construction that is going to change the topography of the road network or so, whereas, is no longer a flat area that even if you're driving and you run off the road, you're actually going feet down now into a cliff-like area. And I talked about this last year, and I remember the Prime Minister asked persons to come and meet with myself and other persons. Up to now, see one person, right? But the area is still there. This construction started, there were two sites. One is completed, but they just have a chain link fence, which creates a barrier there. But if something crashed through it, person's still going down. The next one is that excavation was done since February last year. And today, they had one of those plastic caution thing, and the grasses were grown there and stuff like that. So anybody that doesn't know the area, or anybody that has an accident or anything, or drunk, whatever, they're going down. So which means it could create a casualty or a fatality actually. So there's something that needs to be done there. Either the person responsible for the construction put up something there, or the NTW work with them to put some form of solid barrier there in that area, right? And the road needs doing as well through there, like Cafe and stuff. We got a lot of potholes and stuff like that there. And we need, and not only that, sidewalks. We definitely need sidewalks in that area. You know, we still have an elderly population here in the St. Thomas area, as MP Ford can tell you. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I would like to take my mom outside for a stroll on the street. But with the traffic zooming up and down, you know, it's difficult, you know, to bring for persons, elderly persons, to walk on the street there as well. So we need some action there, right? Sorry, you want to respond? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyt, and pleasant good evening to everyone. You've raised a number of issues, so let me deal with the one with respect to drainage first. Charles can speak to whether I think they have done the inspection down there in its entirety, but what I can say is that we did walk that area, and we also agreed that we would do a drainage study of that area. I think at the time we were looking at roads that we could do under the short roads program, and we ended up walking all through the gully area in the particular district. So the plan is for us to engage engineering services to be able to look at the design for drainage, because it's not a straightforward issue of just doing the road. There's obviously a lot more complex than just doing the road and doing the sidewalks. As it relates to the choice of the roads, under the Accelerated Mill and Pave program, you may recall that what we said is that we were looking at roads that were not too complex. There were roads that we could, in the course of 3 months, pretty much have the roads milled, have them paved in short order, and they did not require the sidewalks and the curbs, and they did not require us to do a lot of work with the utilities, because as you know, BWA tends to slow down, as well as MPC and the other utilities. Sometimes they slow down the progress of the road works. So in many cases, the roads that you have seen actually done, while in some cases you've seen some issues with BWA thereafter, those could not be avoided. They are just things that happen as a result of the compaction on the road sometimes, because the mains are too high and close to the surface. So I just want to say it's not deliberate on the part of the Barbados Water Authority, but in many cases it just happens because of where the mains are, and the mains are also very old. So our selection of the roads was to get to a situation where we could ease the pressure on Barbadians. Many of you have complained about the condition of the cars as a result of driving on these surfaces. And while we've been doing those particular roads, and we're coming to the end of the program now, we have also, as part of this scope, looked at roads that we will have to go back to deal with the issues of drainage, that we may be able to put in sidewalks if the roads will allow us to. We may have to put in curbs, we may have to put in curb and slipper. We may have to do a number of other accommodation works to be able to satisfy the public that the road is really in truth and in fact complete. But the types of roads determine what we can actually do. We have also, as part of this program, been identifying those side roads where you all live that you all feel that we've neglected. We have not neglected them. We have a separate column of roads across the country where the paving unit in the next few months is going to start to go in, and we're going to keep touching parishes and constituencies, because we can't do 10 roads in the north and then only do 3 in the south. So the intention is to do a similar thing where we start perhaps in the north of the island, and we work our way through each of the parishes, start with 2 to 3 roads, and then work our way through till we complete that phase, and then go again so that everybody gets a little piece of the pie. All right, so I think it is really more a case of understanding that what this program was about, but also appreciating that there are other programs under which the ministry is still doing roadworks as well. And I think the one that perhaps stands out for me in St. Thomas is the Canewood to Prout, where that's a long stretch of road. That initially was supposed to be done under a different program, but we actually brought it within the Mill and Pave. And you have Shop Hill to Content, which is also being done. Those contracts have been awarded, but those are going to require a design and build, which means simply that the contractors have to now design the entire road. Those will have all of the features that you've spoken about, but those are going to take a little longer, because doing the designs is not the same thing as doing a straight mill and pave. okay? But Shop Hill to Content, Kean Garden to Bridgefield, in particular, those two will have all of the things that you've spoken about added to those particular roads. And then, of course, we still have roads like Reese Road, Bloomsbury, which will come under the Scotland District project. So there are different programs, but in some cases, they require a bit more work and a bit more time to be able to allow us to get it right. So I have made a note of the concern of the roads that we've missed out, and I will be sure to feed it into the program that is appropriate for it.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. Continue on road safety. One of the things I've noticed while traversing through St. Thomas is that there's a lot of areas like on the road network that have a lot of overgrown with shrubbery and grass, etc. And I believe that this should be a scheduled program to address this problem rather than, just when after a period of rain or whatever and stuff. But it should be ongoing because the road safety is something that we should really have at the top of our thing, because you want to preserve lives at the end of the day, So actually a schedule where as you have persons going and make sure that this particular area is kept clean and tidy. So I saw the same thing in St. Peter recently when I went down to St. Peter, where everything overgrown onto the road. And also what that does is also damages the edges of the road. So then the road starts to chip away and becomes narrow. And there are some areas that have like sharp bridges and stuff like that, where you don't if you don't know the road, you won't know that they're there, right? And they need repainting. They're generally in black and white. They need repainting and stuff like that. So those are things that need to be addressed throughout the parish, right? Yeah.
So we have a current system of decentralization of a lot of the works at MTW. And just yesterday, the team and myself were at one of the depots, but also looking at a fleet management system. Because one of the challenges is that you need to know where your equipment is. Prime Minister is always complaining that whenever you ask about equipment is broken down. And in an effort to try to address this long-standing problem, what we're doing is looking at the technology within the ministry that will allow the central ministry, the officers, the chief technical officer, and others to be able to know where equipment is being deployed, and that where the depots say that they're deploying the equipment is in fact where it is going. And that will help us now to be able to schedule, the system will allow us to be able to schedule tasks and certainly be able to have those tasks completed in real time. Right now, what I don't think people realize is that the ministry receives reports from the depots a month later after the works have actually been done. And from the time that I've been there, I've been saying this does not make sense because you're not able at the central location to properly manage what people are doing in the depots. So what we have to be able to do is to know what is happening in the workshop, where is the equipment, but also to be able to have very clearly identified tasks on a daily basis for the depots, but to allow central ministry to be able to provide that oversight to make sure that people are doing what they say that they are doing and that these types of tasks are actually complete. Preventative maintenance, I think we've seen it from the schools, we've seen it in buildings that belong to government as well. We've not generally been very good at being able to address the issue of maintenance. Fortunately, we've been putting a lot more emphasis on it recently because people are getting sick. The issues that you have raised in terms of the challenges, in terms of safety on the roads, it is a concern for us. And I think in each of the ministries, we're trying to find systems that we can put in place to make people more accountable. I pick up a lot of things on social media in terms of complaints. And I don't think that I should be the person who is complaining on behalf of the whole country. But I find myself doing it, and we're also moving in a direction of having what is referred to as a Fix-It Barbados app, where people are able to complain in a systematic way about issues related to MTW. But we have to fix the back end, which is making sure that when you complain, that the ministry is in a position to respond. because I am not about to preside over anything where you're complaining as the public, and we cannot in real time be able to go out and fix those issues. And I think generally we are all striving to get to that point where when you complain, you highlight a problem, you know whether something is ongoing, whether it's pending, whether it's treated as an urgent work. So just to say, that is a work in progress, and MTW is using the technology now that is available to it to improve the operations and the efficiencies for the general public.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And let me add to that too. You should also try to reach out to persons within the parish or so who have suggestions and solutions to some of these issues as well. My next point, this is regarding the what happened? This is regarding the Barbados Water Authority and this interim billing that they have been doing for over the past year, which I found that, you know, my bill used to be like $85. That includes the sewage and garbage tax. So say the average rate that I used to pay was like around $40 or so. But now I realize that there's like be 100, and in this interim billing, 120% increase on the rate during this interim billing period. So now I'm paying $150.
Not on the rate, because the rates haven't increased. So you mean on the bill?
I said it's interim billing.
No, before, but you said increase on the rate. And
because that's where the charge would go.
Right.
The charge would go towards the rates, because if there is basic rate, normal rate, and then discretionary. They're applied. No, I'm telling you, the rate is the discretionary rate is also applied, which makes then the bill higher than what you would normally pay.
I will ask the Water Authority to address you. There has been no increase in water rates at the residential level in Barbados since 2009.
I said on the interim billing.
Well, I understand. Even with the interim, there is no increase in rates. The interim can only tell you. The interim can only tell you about volume.
It will have to be on the volume.
If you let you finish, let me finish to explain, because regrettably, it's not just you and me talking. It is also everybody listening. So I want to be very clear. There has been no increase in water rates in this country at the residential level since 2009. And at the commercial level, there's been no increase, but there was a correction in 2019 for something that had been wrong all along. Having said that, I fully accept that what you may have had on your bill may be an increased amount for you to pay.
Correct.
On the basis of obviously an assessment, which you are saying was an interim assessment. So I'm not sure who is here from Water Authority. If you want to be able to address it, sir. This is your last thing, or you have more comments? Because I want to be able, and I'm conscious of others too. So if you have other things to address, I'll let you finish, and then he'll just finish and wrap up one time. Okay, thanks.
Hi, good evening. My name is Gregory Thompson. I'm the Senior Superintendent of Works for Barbados Water Authority. So I have responsibility for managed by the Distribution Department. The query that Mr. Hoyt just raised about having to pay exorbitant rates on his bill. Now, what I can say is that there has been some challenges in reading the meters. And he would get an interim bill, but it's called an estimated bill. I wouldn't call it interim, but an estimated bill. What happens is, when he gets the reading taken out the following month, the commercial department, what they do, they make adjustments on his bill. So when he thinks that he has to pay these high amounts, the bill is actually brought back to some degree of normalcy. So it's not that he's being overbilled. It's just that the computer system, it just generates the bill for him. But then the adjustments are made by the commercial team, and then the bill then will reflect the correct rate of pay that he should pay.
Well, and may I advise you to Mr. Hoyt that if it doesn't happen, please go up to the Water Authority and address the matter so that they can come and read the meter. And that's what I'm telling you, that if you've not seen whatever adjustments, that they won't know, they will not know in their head. So I'd like to humbly suggest to you that you come to the Water Authority, you go to the Water Authority, and you ask them to please come and read the meter and resolve the issue. Okay? Because that way your matters then can be satisfactorily resolved based on the usage. Okay? And you have all the previous bills.
Okay, just to note that we also have persons who are here from the Water Authority, from the Customer Service Department. You can give them your information, and they can contact you via email or telephone number, whichever you prefer, so that your situation can be resolved. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good night. Good night, Madam PM. Good night, Deputy Prime Minister. Good night, MP Ford. Good night to the panel. Good night to everyone here. I don't intend to take as long as Mr. Hoyt. Sorry, Wade Herbert, Carrington's Village, St. Thomas. There is a Carrington's Village in St. Thomas. The guy at the door was asking me if I was mistaken, but no. My 3 points I want to raise concerns the Harrison's Cave area and the zone that protects that area. Just for the context, the area known as Harrison's Cave Zone of Special Environmental Control. The policy was adopted in 1984 and amended in 2001. The area is 300 acres, which includes the immediate neighborhood of Allen View, which is the nucleus of the zone, and then it extends northeasterly as far as Bloomsbury in St. Thomas, which is near St. Joseph, and then southerly to Bryan's Road. I also live within that extended zone as well in Carrington's Village. The first question I have relates to the geotechnical study that was commissioned by Caves of Barbados to investigate the Great Hall of the Harrison's Cave. A subsequent meeting was held back in March 25, 2023 with the residents and the project manager at the time, Mr. Gregory Hazard. Sorry, you heard me so far, right? Okay. What are the results of the study to date, and has there been any decision made on which properties might be at risk? And if so, whether relocation is an option? That's the first question. You want me to ask all three, or? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Wade. We know each other, obviously, from where you work with me. But it reminds me of when Prime Minister's PS was asking her questions, too.
Yeah, right. I remember that moment.
But the geotechnical, I understand, has been done, but as far as I'm aware, we haven't actually received the final report. So when we get sight of the final report, as I understand it, then we'll be able to answer. But I certainly have not seen the final report. I know that they had done it, and I understand that it was completed. They had the town hall meetings, but I don't know with respect to which houses are affected, but I'll try to get that information for you.
Okay. Well, just to go back to the first point, that's why the meeting was held back in 2023. And the engineer said the same thing at that time. So you're saying study has been concluded?
I think what happened is after that, they found that they had additional work to go and do. And then they were, right, they had to get special equipment to do additional work. And those results I've not seen as yet.
So is it possible then that once that study is complete and they will meet with the residents again to let
I would
them know
imagine
what's
so.
going on?
In fact, I would encourage them to do that, yes.
Right, okay. Second question relates now to the wider area, which encompasses that area and then the zone itself. So much people might not know about the Zone 1 policy. Water protection Zone 1 area is applied to regulate that area. With the new zones being approved, the amendment to the Barbados Water Authority Act, will the regulations of the Zone A, which basically replaces all the Zone 1 areas, which are more stringent, would they now apply to that area?
Yes. Any area that falls in what was Zone 1, that is now Zone A, would have to apply to that. So the simple answer is yes. But you will also be aware that we also have a location at 40 acres. And that area that we're supposed to be doing a transition for the people to move from there over to that other location. and we're making some progress with that.
That's a part of the answer to the first question or the second one?
Well, I guess it goes to both.
Oh, okay. And the last one is, will a similar proposal to sewer the area in the future? Sorry, will a similar proposal to sewer the area in the future be considered as other previous Zone 1, no Zone A areas like Bellevue, for instance?
I didn't understand. Repeat the question again, sorry.
Right, so there are existing Zone 1 areas, which are now Zone A areas, Bellevue, for instance. There are plans to sewer that area. Is that a possibility for this zone as well?
That depends on a whole host of considerations that you know better than I do. And the cost-benefit analysis would have to be done to be able to determine. That is why we try to make sure that people don't go and put up houses. And town planning is supposed to go and remove them when they're going to put up houses at the early stage.
Right.
What we inherited, however, was a number of situations where illegal squatting had taken place for a while. And we've tried to accommodate where we can, and where we can't, we are also making the adjustment, as you know. So Rock Hall, there's nothing we can do because the airport is there and it is affected. In St. Philip, Rock Hall, St. Philip. No, Rock Hall, St. Philip. I don't know about any illegal settlements in Rock Hall, St. Thomas. I know about the first black settlement, free black settlement. But secondly, with other areas, like the same Bellevue, we've had to take a decision that because of its proximity to the Bridgetown sewage treatment plant, and same with the Bell, we can make a decision to be able to sewer and accommodate those. Bailey Alley in St. George is too far, but we have been given an alternative solution, as I announced last Monday too, which would be like a collection pond that will also be able to assist there. So that's why I said there's no single answer, as you know, and they have to look at it, the technical solutions, but also the cost-benefit analysis with it. Okay?
Yeah.
And anybody who gave you that straight off would just be talking off the top of the head, unless they win lotto.
Yeah, I think it was quite unfortunate when they had the previous neighborhood upgrade program. I think that was under they kind of missed the bus there where we could have, I guess, put in some
the
measures to
IDB,
sewer
you're
the
talking
area.
about Allen View.
Yes.
Yeah. The housing neighborhood project
Right, that
where
one, yeah.
the government sent back $40-something million to the IDB,
Yeah, that was
which was
unfortunate.
unfortunate. But we need to be able to look and see, and that's really the concern. So I haven't seen the study yet. I give you the assurance that when it is made available to me, that I will read it as well, and that we will look and have a discussion on it. Okay?
All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Good night, Prime Minister, Representative Ford, and members of the Cabinet. Prime Minister, Ian Gibbs, Rock Hall, St. Thomas. Prime Minister, I don't know if you would agree with me, but I think our parish representative might, that despite the developments that have taken place in St. Thomas, the parish remains predominantly a rural one. Okay? And Ms. Ford, I also think you would agree with me that agriculture significantly contributes to what you might say, the economy of our parish, income generating, as well as employment. We have significant acreages still in cane in St. Thomas, root crops, vegetables, large acreages of grass for fodder production for the livestock industry. We have the two biggest beef operations on the island in St. Thomas. We have three of the largest pork operations on the island in St. Thomas. We have significant orchards for fruit, and horticultural operations for flowers, cut flowers. So St. Thomas does its bit in terms of agriculture on the island. And Honorable Prime Minister, I find it a bit strange that despite of all of that, I ain't see him here tonight again, our Honorable Minister of Agriculture has not deemed to grace us with his presence, both at this meeting and the last one that we had, because I believe that...
I can't, and I'm not going to let you make disparaging remarks, Ian.
But I am just saying it's obvious, madam.
But no, it is not obvious, because with all due respect, one of the things that I've spent this evening doing is trying to settle supplementaries for tomorrow. Parliament is actually meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and the Minister of Agriculture is actually preparing stuff for me because some additional revenue came in today, and I've said to him that I want to clear some stuff with some of the things that he wanted to do in agriculture, and could he prepare that information for us? So that to suggest that, and if he finishes, he'll come, but to suggest that he's not here because of some nefarious reason or some other thing.
I didn't do that, Prime Minister.
No, but I am saying that you may not have done it, but the comment that you dropped will lead to an imputation being drawn that is unfavorable to the minister. Yeah, now, as Minister of Finance, I happen to know what I've asked him to do today. And the proof of the pudding will be in the supplemental tomorrow afternoon in Parliament, when Parliament doesn't normally meet on a Thursday, does it? And Monday, Thursday at that. Parliament is meeting tomorrow because tomorrow is the last working day of the financial year. And we want to make sure that when revenue comes in these few days this week, that we're in a position to ensure that that revenue can be appropriately used in the interest of the country. And I think that the others who work in finance will tell you that they have been flat out all week on trying to be able to bring to book those things for us. So talk to me about what you want to talk to, and leave out the presence
I was only
of the Minister of
approaching it from the point
Agriculture,
of view
who
that
happens to be doing government's business.
That the farmers would have liked to have seen him and spoken.
And I therefore tell me so. Okay. Because then I will ask him to engage with you in a similar meeting for the farmers of St. Thomas.
Fair
That's
enough.
not a problem.
As
But don't come so to come back so to come back so. Because with me, as I tell you, you don't need to ball no googlies, because I don't ball none. And I don't want no in-swingers nor out-swingers neither. Keep the ball straight.
Okay.
Let us go.
As you would say in Parliament, madam, I withdraw my comment.
I always knew that you had that side to it. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All jokes aside,
Yeah, all jokes
I
aside.
take your point about St. Thomas, and if the people of St. Thomas want an encounter with the Ministry of Agriculture officials, it shall be done.
Thank you.
And in any event, I've also indicated that we will have, and I went through with Mr. Morris, he stepped out of the room. In January this year, I indicated that sectoral ministries will account to the people. And that is being put in place for us to start, I hope, from April. And we'll do it probably every other month. But rather than having each minister, because it would be too long and too cumbersome. So we'll do the governance sector, we'll do the infrastructural sector, we'll do the productive sector, we'll do the social sector. So you'll get 4 meetings a year where people can address the sectoral issues as opposed to the parish issues that are being done here.
Right.
And the government is making itself available to be fully transparent in all of these things. That's why there's not everything that we will all agree with, but it is everything that we will commit to working together on.
Fair enough. My next little point, and please control your mirth. It deals with the improvement of the dairy goat farmers, how they produce milk on the island. Since I was at the Ministry of Agriculture a few decades ago, and I've been asking, why can't we have artificial insemination for the dairy goats, like we have it and have had it for years with the dairy industry, and it was highly successful. And I got told all sorts of questions, but we don't have to go back there.
Do you have a program that is structured and costed? Because invariably, can you do that? Because,
I can look at it, yes.
Yeah, because look, the dairy people came to the ministry, then they met with me. They made a credible case. And I keep telling people that it is not only what you can do, it is whether we can finance our way to victory.
Right.
And if we can finance our way to victory with respect to livestock farming in this country, Ian, you know you have me fully.
Okay.
So
And
that the one that, I mean, the black belly sheep, the goats, the cattle,
pigs.
which we've just dealt with
And
the
pigs
dairy side of it, but the beef side of it, we haven't really.
Okay.
And with respect to the pork industry, I would like Barbados to be fully self-sufficient in pork again, and you know that I feel that way.
I mean,
You and Mr.
we get
Barnwell,
hit hard from a
others.
southern neighbor.
Yeah. Well,
And we won't go into that now.
but we can get hit hard from everybody.
Yes.
And therefore, I keep making the point that one of the limiting factors with the production of all agriculture, all food in this country, is the limited size of population and land size.
Right.
The land size is less of an issue now because with the crops you can have vertical yield and do a lot more. Our problem, however, is that can we import and produce sufficient to develop a strong agro-processing industry that fundamentally is an export industry but starts with the domestic base.
Right.
And if we can do that, then I think we can finally turn the corner and move agriculture in Barbados from being a plantation-driven, sugar-driven model, where rotation took place with sugar for the purposes of sugar for the most part, to a model where we are seriously a net exporter of agro-processed food and fisheries. In the way that the Netherlands is one of the smallest countries in Europe.
And one of the richest too.
By extension, but guess how it get rich? By being smart. It is one of the smallest countries in Europe and one of the smaller developed countries in the world. It only has a population of 17 million. But the Netherlands, I believe, is the second largest exporter of food, agro-processed food in the world.
Yeah.
So there is something to learn from that. We don't need to be the largest, but we need to work smart.
Right. Okay. And I'm sure Dr. Duguid would agree that of the good qualities of goat's milk in terms of feeding to babies, young children, lactose intolerant people, and so there's a big demand for it out there. Okay? And goat cheese too.
And goat cheese too.
Yes, of course. Now, still on the topic of agriculture, and a topic that has been vexatious for many years, and I really would like to see some progress made on it, Prime Minister, but it has been bandied about and talked about ad nauseam over the years by your government as well as many previous governments. And that
Coming
is
around the corner to come to me. Tell me what
that
it
is
is.
I'm following your example, Prime Minister.
No, I got straight.
Okay. The vexatious issue of the thousands of acres of valuable, fertile land that is lying in St. Thomas, vacant, growing bush. And the people only waiting to get permission to put housing on it. That is a moral sin, Prime Minister. I don't know how you're going to resolve it, whether it could be through taxation, moral persuasion, or otherwise.
You sent for the minister. He finished all the work for me. He sent for him, thank you for finishing the work on the supplemental in there. I told him that he was about to say that you don't come to see him,
welcome,
and I had to
Minister,
remind him
You must hear me, man.
when he sees the supplemental
He hear me,
tomorrow
Prime Minister.
and see that agriculture is involved in the supplemental, he knows why you were not here, because it got passed through cabinet before it get to Parliament at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. And so I don't know how we're going to solve it, but we would dearly like if some progress could be made on it. It irritates me every day.
But
that
I think you
drive
need
through
to be
St.
clear
Thomas.
to the public, because actually the senior minister gave me this evening the list of properties that the government owns. And the truth is that in a large measure, a lot of the properties of which you are speaking about are in fact privately owned and not government. So that unless
That's why you say you're gonna use some
I
sort of persuasion.
know that people call me a dictator, but you want me to be one, but I ain't gonna agree with you.
I never would dream
Because
to call you
privately
that, Prime
held
Minister.
lands are privately held lands.
But that's why I say you're going to use some form of persuasion.
We're going to have to start to talk to people, and that's why I'm saying that, look,
'Cause
there is a potential future for us
it
with
is a sin.
agro-processing. Seriously, all jokes aside. And food and water will become the new oil in the 21st century. And all we have been doing is trying to get people to reach the point to understand that we can literally use what we need, but export what we don't use through agro-processing. And if we can do that for both on land as well as for fisheries, mariculture, then I believe that that can become a credible productive sector in Barbados, providing jobs and ensuring that people can access food at affordable rates at the same time. And if we need to top up our volumes, there are sufficient numbers around us in other countries producing that we can top up, so long as we have the brand properly and we have the manufacturing process down pat.
I'm glad you said top up and not replace.
I'm with you, Ian. Top
up and not replace. And my final point, Prime Minister, and this concerns gray-haired pensioners like myself. At the last meeting, I asked if you would consider a little easement. The minister looking at me, but he don't fall in that category yet. A little easement on the onerous 17.5% tax on dividends, especially as it concerns retired persons, because that sometimes is a major source of their income. And you said you would consider it at the last town hall meeting we had.
It is still there. There are
you're
one or
taking
two
long
things.
to consider it.
That's all right. But one thing I know I ain't gonna carry out to see and dump you and lay it down.
Fair enough.
So that I am trying to make sure
I can
that
take your guarantees.
Yeah. And I'm being fair, because there are one or two things that we are waiting on that have not necessarily materialized yet.
No.
And what I'm not going to do is to put the country at risk at the same time. But I hear you. I hear the pensioners' plea loud and clear. And I give you the assurance, as soon as the country has the fiscal space to do it, as soon as I can do it, then it will be done. Because I fully appreciate the burden that's being carried, but that is also why we have done so many things to try to insulate people from the cost of living and other increases. So the old Bajan saying, when catch you, in pass you.
Noted, Prime Minister, and thank you very much.
And thank you for keeping us on our toes with respect to that matter.
Good night, Prime Minister and other ministers of cabinet at the table and others sitting here. My name is Jean-Marc Cozier. I actually live in St. George but has interest in agriculture in the St. Thomas area. And I basically wanted to touch from an agricultural perspective on a food security point on as animals and well as other agricultural aspects. Now, a couple of years back, the Prime Minister had made mention pertaining to the production of Barbados black-belly sheep and trying to get 1 million sheep, or the numbers up to about 1 million. I've been working kind of behind the scenes with the ministry, with the farmer, chief agricultural officer, and the minister on a program. However, I know they are getting challenges in getting funding to push these programs, especially in the reproduction of animals, livestock. The rest of the world has gone to embryo transfers and some semen programs. And semen is kind of back of the table right now. The embryo transfer programs is what you really need to push to get your numbers up. So it basically is where you would take your best producing animals, fast growing animals that gain weight fast, and you would genetically, basically, flush these animals for embryos and take the embryos from these better quality animals and just put them in hosts, or what you call recips, to get your numbers up. So Greenland, for example, could be a hub for the whole of the Caribbean, and where we can get numbers up and it's significantly fast if we were to do the embryo transfer programs. Also, it works for goats as well. There is Mr. Gibbs mentioned about goats.
What is it that you need for it?
Well, right now, I can tell you straight from my research that the Ministry of Agriculture through Veterinary Services Department, they need more vets on hand. They need trained vets and technicians that are trained in the embryo transfer aspect of reproduction. Our laws basically tie the hands for a reproduction specialist to do this procedure. I am in contact with people in the US.
When you say our laws constrain, how?
Because anybody, you cannot do a surgical procedure on an animal, same way as per human, unless you are a qualified vet. So the laws may need to be tweaked pertaining to that aspect, where a veterinary trained technician in embryo transfers can do this procedure rather than have a vet. That also then creates employment for young people who may have an interest in doing that type of work, but can't afford to get to a veterinary certificate level or a doctorate. So technicians all over the world, or what we call reproduction specialists, play a vital part in this aspect of getting animal numbers up and basically creating food security for a country. The goats, we have a lot of people in Barbados that are lactose intolerant. Some of y'all at the table may be lactose intolerant. And goat milk is a milk that is good for babies and infants because it's not harsh on them, because it doesn't contain the fat globules that dairy cows produce, so it's easily digestible. It's good for convalescence and things like that. So our dairy industry, goat dairy industry, is something I think we need to push. Poor people, small people that have restricted land spaces can keep goats. Everybody can't keep a cow. Right? Goats consume less, but you are getting a better value or better quality of milk out of goats. And our sheep, which we will know is basically indigenous sheep, we are dropping the ball. I was on the board of the BAS for over 20 years, and it is spinning top and mud is basically what I can say. We need to register the Barbados black-belly sheep, okay, and keep basically a lineage, or what we call a pedigree of these sheep, so you will know who the great-grandfather was, the great-grandmother, etc., etc. So you stop all this inbreeding. So these sheep will all have registration numbers or pedigree lines, and it's the only way going forward. All the rest of the world has done it. I imported some Boer goats a couple of years ago, and these goats came with more paperwork than me. Right? They can show 5, 6, 8 generations back. And these goats have tremendous growth rate. I've got kids at me right now crossed with local goats, and in 6 months, I was getting a 55-pound, 65-pound carcass from these goats. All right? So that's the direction we need to move in if we really want to be food secure and drive down the import bill of meats into this country.
Point well made, and I would urge you, I know that you've been talking to the Ministry of Agriculture, but in these things, as I said, if we see projects with a definable beginning and a definable outcome, that is why the Agricultural Development Fund is there. We're going to look at recapitalizing it shortly in phases. That is why we're also doing other projects through the feed program and also the BADMC. Tomorrow, we're going to be voting the money for the farmers that I announced last Monday for the farmers to get the water. So that is really for the Water Authority to be able to put in the water at Spencer's, Wakefield, Mount Poyer, Bath. I think those are the four or so locations. And that money will be voted tomorrow afternoon. Now, that case was made by those farmers over the last few months, and we've been able to meet it. So that's why I said to Mr. Gale as well, with the AI that you were talking about, the artificial insemination for the goats, and I'm saying the same thing with you with the talk of the embryos. We need to get our livestock industry up and running again at full throttle. And therefore, I am prepared. We started with the dairy farmers. I am prepared to listen and to talk with you and see how we can work collectively with you. And we need to do it in a way that is climate resilient, because we saw what happened with the poultry industry, and to a lesser extent, the same dairy industry as a result of the extreme heat and the drought last year. So I'd like to invite you to submit something that we can.
I've submitted a document already to the minister.
But then the minister's taking long to get the document up to finance.
The minister's a very busy
so
man.
I know how you will get him to get it up. Thank you.
Right, one other aspect, I know it may be a contentious issue somewhat, but I'm glad to see that the government has taken initiative and raised the bounty on the pest called the Barbados green monkey. They got a lot of advocates out there who are defending the government doing that. But they don't even have any idea about food security and the destruction that these monkeys can have and the impact they can have on the food security of this country. Right? I am going to be a little bit in their favor. Let us say we have 15,000 monkeys. When I know the population is quadruple that, right? Basically roaming in Barbados. Every hotel in Barbados, I tell you, they got monkeys roaming through their property like yes. South Coast, East Coast, West Coast, wherever it is. They have moved in and infiltrated neighborhoods. People get and defend this and say that monkeys, that humans are the ones that have impacted the monkey habitat. But they are wrong. If you look across the landscape of Barbados, over 40 or so plantations have gone out of production in the last 40, 45, 50 years. Right? Cane Garden, that's where my neighbor's string was buried. Had the highest yields of cane in Barbados when my father was working there. It's housing, right? But however, the housing is not the issue. We all know about the sugar industry, and that was basically on the brink of collapse. The government had to prop it up because we were tied to selling all the sugar and exporting all the sugar overseas at a loss. And the monkeys now have more habitat, more jungle, more forested areas to run and multiply that we cannot even infiltrate, because I am a monkey hunter. I'm not afraid to say so, right? And if you got 15,000 monkeys on the conservative side eating 2 pounds of produce a day, the average produce in Barbados now, I think sweet potatoes is like $3 a pound, yams are $4 a pound. So each month, 15,000 monkeys eating $4 or $8 every day in produce. Anybody that went to school, up to primary school level, could calculate the mass and tell you how much money that is that the government has to look for then to bring in food and foreign exchange, right? So I commend the government on raising the bounty because it wasn't raised since 1982, right? Since 1982, right? I am a third generation hunter, right? And my grandfather used to do it for free. My father came along, was getting $10. It was $15 since 1982 to now. It wasn't 50. All right? But anyhow, I commend the government on that because it is a serious impact. Not only because of diseases, right? These monkeys can spread diseases all over this island and people don't even understand. We just had COVID. Suppose we were to get a pandemic coming here that monkeys can spread. Monkeys go in people's houses, going in schools. We had a monkey try to break in to police headquarters on Sunday morning. Huh? He was trying to get me here with commissioner, I believe. Right? But this is a fact. This was on video. The man was at the door of police headquarters on Robert Street, pulling at the door of police headquarters.
Looking for the hunter?
I didn't get a call. Anyhow, so I commend you all on that. And despite the licks you all may be getting for implementing and increasing this bounty, it is the best thing. Because I am telling you, my estimation, I am out there all the time. We have at least between 40 and 60,000 monkeys in this island. It is a pest. It is an introduced pest, and it has no natural predator in Barbados besides somebody's dog or us, the hunter. right? In Africa, where they came from, lions hunt them, people eat them, leopards hunt them, hyenas hunt them, so they have natural predators there. We don't have any here. So we need to control them. In 25 years' time, if we don't control them, we will be in problems about this place. We will not have anything to eat. Anything to eat. Right? So I commend you all and see if we can raise the bounty up a little more.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, head table, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know oh, sorry. I'm gonna get that, don't worry. I don't know the gentleman's name, but I want to invite you to come and see me in Hopewell. And we have an overpopulation of monkeys. Where it is? All right, I come into that, don't worry about it. I can't remember the gentleman's name. Name is Michael Allen. Allenview and Hopewell. Prime Minister, when I got into the audience this evening, I think you were wrapping up on a point about housing. I had that on my list to make mention of. I just want to briefly say that, make a suggestion, that some of the lots or some of the areas that you mark for housing, and I'm hoping to hear that you have 1 or 2 or 3 for St. Thomas as well. If you can give the prospective persons the lots, and through the same mortgage program that they would get for the houses, that we can give them that facility. Because some of the houses are not aesthetically pleasing. And some of them, when you get into them, they lack some space and design in them. And really and truly, it looks as though you're forcing people into cells. So I'm suggesting that you can try a program.
As I told you, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, there'll be an integrated mix approach, so that's fine.
Precisely. And the same, the mortgage, when they start, the same steps.
Once again, what we're trying to do is to unlock the mortgage market so that people can go forward and get their own mortgage and sort out.
Yeah. Precisely. Thank you. My main address this evening, you can sit and relax for a while.
Because the other people in here and tomorrow is cabinet and
No,
parliament.
you see, I don't want you to lose your voice. Wait for them. The lady, gracious lady to your left, is the one who I want to engage in discussion. Deputy Prime Minister, roads, right up your street, and the roads in St. Thomas, right up your street. I heard the Prime Minister says that she has 30 million plus for accelerated program.
Had. It's been spent. So we get the tenses wrong tonight.
Now what?
But the truth is, no, it'll continue. It'll continue and probably a little more.
Now I know, Madam Prime Minister.
The minister has gone down the road spending at a gallop.
Well, they have galloped past us.
And that's what I asked her to do.
She have galloped past us. You see, I want, Deputy Prime Minister, to hear from you a definitive timetable and approach to the rehabilitation of roads in St. Thomas. Let's start with, from this point to Sturgis. And before I get further on this, a project from a department that was under your watch a few weeks or months ago has been started between here and Hopewell, Waterworks. It seemed to me that it was a closely guarded secret until the work started. There was no proper communication to the folks the traveling public, the residents, especially in Bridgefield and in between, well, there's a short road, Bridgefield and Hopewell. Most of it's populated in Bridgefield. Rugby to Glendale is slightly thing. But there was no proper communication, no proper signage. And the traffic management is serious. Somebody holds up a little sign, hardly be able to see it.
Sorry, I don't want to stop you, but you're referring to King Garden, the stretch from King Garden to
Yeah,
Bridgefield?
from here.
Right, so what is happening presently is that Barbados Water Authority is doing the mains replacement before we can actually do the major reconstruction of the road. And usually they would send out the notices. I can't speak to what amount of notice they give, but I know that they would have put out the notices because it's at this point not a road reconstruction. They're doing the preparatory work to get us to that point.
Yeah,
okay?
Understood. But I'm saying to you, ma'am, that they kept it a secret. They just descended upon the persons because we're not here. If you're going to do a project just like that, put up a sign, big sign, that we're going to do it. And have some people who can manage the traffic flow properly. That's the biggest problem that is having here, you know. As a matter of fact, it is surprising that there are no accidents that could have occurred daily because you have the equipment taking up 3/4 of the road. So that when people come, you know, it is a serious problem. And his wait is long, and people get frustrated and all of that, and then there's an argument between the workers and the traveling public. I believe what should have happened, and I want you to take note of this. When the major road works are to be undertaken, please, there's need to rehabilitate Reese Road first, Reese Road, and Hangman Hill. And the reason for that is clearly, now when you start here, and you're going up to the police complex. Now, the road, unless you're going to do it between midnight and 5 a.m., the road is going to become virtually impossible. So you're going to have to redivert the traffic through here onto Reese Road to come back to the main road in Bridgefield. When you get to a certain point, Hangman Hill has to be an access road. And at this point in time, Hangman Hill is just a cart road, really. So I think that you should ask the Prime Minister if she's going to give you 20 million, ask her for another 10 to deal with the Hangman's Hill first and Reese Road.
I can tell you I don't have to ask her because those monies have already been put into the Complant project. And I am pleased to tell you that both Reese Road and Hangman Hill are at the detailed design stage. And very shortly, I'm hoping by next month, we can, again, once the King Garden to Bridgefield has gotten going, we will be able to schedule in those two roads to be done as well. Because a lot more, as I said earlier, a lot of preparatory work has to go into the design on the roads in St. Thomas because of the slippage, because it is in the Scotland district. So we are not able to design roads in the Scotland district in the time frame that people would like, but we're working towards doing that in the wet season so that we can take advantage of the dry season to be able to start the construction.
But say that again, but you can't do a lot of work in the wet season.
What we've been doing, you asked me to beg Prime Minister for more money, but what I'm saying to you is the $230 million that we got through the loan through the Exim Bank from China, those funds, what we have been doing in the last, say, year or so, is working with the Complant team in the wet season to prepare the designs. So you have to do surveys, the topographical surveys. You have to do preliminary designs. It has to go back and forth between MTW, the supervisory consultants, and then it gets to the point of a final design stage. Then you have to cost it. So most of the two roads you've referred to, Reese Road and Hangman Hill, we are at the point now where the detailed designs have been completed, and they're at the process now of doing the bill of quantities, which will then go to being awarded to contractors. Contractors will be able to tender for those, and those works will be awarded. Now, the key here is that a lot of the road works that need to be done in St. Thomas and across the Scotland district, there will be disruption. But the truth of the matter is that we've been trying to find a way to minimize the disruption, because we also know, as you've correctly said, that many of these roads lead into communities, and if you start to do one road and you're not mindful of where the other road leads, you're going to create total chaos. Equally, if we are to get these roads done, Barbadians need to appreciate that there will be inconvenience and there will be disruption. And I cannot get a road reconstructed and rehabilitated with all of the wishes of Barbadians unless Barbados Water Authority goes in, unless in some cases MPC is able to also coordinate, unless the telecommunications companies are also at the table. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just us milling a road, digging it up, and paving back a road. It is a very complex exercise, particularly in the Scotland district.
I hear what you're saying, ma'am, and I understand. The roads that we're speaking about, I think they have pretty good foundation. All is need to do is to have them properly re-engineered. They have good foundation. Hangman Hill, not because it's Hangman Hill, but it's rock, hard rock. Reese Road, similarly. So you don't have to do a lot of things. I know the Scotland area.
I have learned the hard way, right? I will learn the words called soft spots. Okay? So what may appear at times as a good road because of the slippage and the types of soil in the Scotland district. If you take Thornbury Hill, for the most part, we would have said Thornbury Hill was a fairly straightforward road to do. But then we had issues in terms of soft spots in the road, which meant that you had to do more compaction. You had more issues in terms of the interventions by Barbados Water Authority. So what appears to the naked eye sometimes as a straightforward road is honestly, it does not really work that way, with all due respect.
I understand. But just let the residents know, communicate with them.
Well, I'm going to ask Gregory if he can also speak to what transpired in terms of Barbados Water Authority, because I'm not sure
let him do, and I'm reminded that we have about 12 or 13 people after you, sir. But
thank you, Prime Minister. I think I touched on my main point. Just before the gentleman comes, I just want to make a national appeal, especially to the persons using Jack in the Box. Persons from St. George, St. John, St. Philip using Jack in the Box as a transit point. Please, look, blow the horns. Blow the horns. I mean, they're blind corners in Jack in the Box. You don't see, especially now, the smaller, I don't want to call them the Swifts. The smaller cars, you don't see them until they're right in front of you. And nobody, and mind you, they come to there with a little bit of speed.
Point well made.
Yeah. So,
and I'm told that today there was a bad accident up this side as well, and therefore there were a lot of diversions.
Yeah. So you know, yeah. So I think that's it. But also on the stretch of piece of road coming out of Bridgefield to Glendale. On the left-hand side, there are a set of trees that they narrow the road as it is now. And I'm appealing to the MTW to see if they can speak to the owners of that plantation and see if we can get some of that road widened, because it doesn't make sense you're going there and repaving it and the road is still so narrow. But those trees need to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, hi, good evening again. I just addressed two of the issues that was raised by the gentleman just like his name, Mr. Ali. On the first one, in terms of the notices about the roadworks, now, we have placed a lot of advertisements in the printed media, on social media as well. So if he did not see it, I cannot account for him not seeing it, but we have placed a lot of information in terms of what we're doing in terms of that stretch of road. And as the Minister responsible for Public Works has said, we have had to go in that road. Otherwise, in that, when the equipment comes to start to compact that road, then we will stall the project, because the main over there is very old. It's a cast iron main. And what cast iron does it just snaps in half. So when that happens, they will have burst means that will slow the projects down. Okay? And secondly, in terms of the traffic management, we have been trying our best in terms of traffic management. But Barbadians on the whole have no patience. They want to get there now, and they have no care for whoever else is using the road. We have had personnel wearing reflective vests, trying to control the traffic management, and we have been told, go out the road, you want the police, I would lick you down. Safety of those guys out there doing that work is paramount to me and for any other supervisor who is actually having work done. So I would not ask someone to go and stand in traffic where there are belligerent drivers looking to knock them down, and then I would have to explain to the families how their son or daughter died in duty.
I think, Gregory, we may need to look at getting some lights or some kind of lighting system that will allow people to be able to stop, and I'm fully with you on that, and we can follow up on that lighting system, Santia, that will make all who are working, it's not just Water Authority, it's NPC, there are a number of utilities, even Light and Power. There are a number of utilities working on the roads now, and the truth is, you know, I used to say that having a driver's license is like having a license to kill. And more, we have to remember that, because there are people who need to use the road with greater care and attention. Okay?
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
point well made, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you for updating.
While the next person is going to the mic, just a reminder, we are not even halfway through the number of speakers. So we need to be able to move a little quicker than we are. Part of the challenge is that the persons who speak first tend to take up a lot of the time, and then we rush everybody else the last 5 or 7. So let's see if we can avoid that tonight. And in the area of water and roadworks, while I am standing, it is no longer politically correct to put up signs saying men at work. The MTW and the other agencies that do roadworks, people at work or construction ahead, but you can't use men at work anymore.
Hi, good night, PM, good night to the head table. So, Tyrell Giles from Allenview, St. Thomas. And I'm glad that the Allenview relocation housing situation was addressed earlier. But, however, St. Thomas is home to Harrison's Cave, Welch Mahal Gully, Jack in the Box Gully, and I think we need better signage. Many a times, especially on weekends, sitting in Allenview, tourists are driving through Allenview in their numbers trying to find Harrison's Cave. And, it's not fair to them that they're coming through Allenview looking for Harrison's Cave, because if nobody's outside, then who's going to direct them to where Harrison's Cave is? So I think we need some better signage to Harrison's Cave in that respect. Yeah.
If I can just respond to you, we do have a signage project that is about to start very shortly. The tender has actually gone out and it's in the system, so people are responding in terms of being able to take advantage of that. We did an audit a few months ago, which would have told us where there were missing signs, where there were broken signs, where there were directional signs that needed replacing, as well as the fingertip signs. So having deployed those persons across the country, we have actually now a breakdown of which signs need replacing, and we've done all of the procurement documents to be able to allow people to take advantage of that. So my intention is that in the month of April, those persons will start to work on actual printing of the signs, and then we have a system whereby we will have across the various communities, you will start to see the erection of both the fingertip as well as the directional signs. All right?
Thanks a lot.
So that's coming.
And I always thank the government for the free education, especially as it relates to at the master's level. Their list of master's degrees under the list of national significance. A number of people pursue them, but I still want that we don't just do them because they're free, but we actually want to give back in the sense of national significance. And I think that we should engage more in those persons pursuing the courses of national significance at UE, so that they can see how they can actually give back in the sense of national significance, and not just we're just doing the degree because we can. I think that's something we can look at as well. And the final one is, I also believe we need to get a measurement for tint for the Barbados Police Service to use. There's too much room left for subjectivity. One officer may say that's fine, and another officer may say, I just can't see. So I think there needs to be some level of measurement, an instrument that you can use to get an accurate measurement of the tint that are on cars. All right. Thanks a lot.
Good night, everyone. My name is Tremaine Griffith, and I live in Welch Mahal, St. Thomas. Tremaine Griffith. Right. So tonight I would like to talk about the Holy Innocents Pavilion, the pasture, and the multi-purpose courts below. Now, I grew up in this area since 2007. So on many evenings, we would go in that area to play a lot of sports like football, cricket. The girls would play netball. The older men would play dominoes in the pavilion, and so on and so forth. But in the past couple of years, a lot of this has come to a halt. And I believe a lot of this is due to the fact that the pavilion is poorly maintained, basically, and it has run to ruin.
We're getting difficulty hearing Tremaine, please. Could we have a little silence, thanks? It's a very important point he's also making. Thank you.
Right, so the pavilion, the facilities have basically run to ruin. The field is not safe to play on due to the large holes and stuff. The backboards on the basketball courts are falling off.
Hear you loud and clear. Minister Griffith, I saw him in here. Minister, please take note.
Right, so the facilities need fixing basically to reignite the sporting asset, because I believe a lot of the youngsters play sport, and that keeps them out of a lot of trouble, because when they go play on the evening, they play sport, they're too tired to go and get in trouble. A lot of them join teams, and that gives them further upward mobility to play sports with other teams and go on to higher education. So I believe that's very important for the youth of St. Thomas, as well as the older folks. There's a lady, she has been walking there since forever on the hard court below the Holy Innocents Pavilion. She walks every evening, she runs. I don't see her now, and I could believe that might be due to the unsafeness of the area, because the backboard right now is hanging. It's basically hanging. So at any given point, that could fall off, hit her and kill her. And no one would see, because it's so far off the road. Right. So I believe that that needs to be fixed as well. And I believe, so I would like to know what's the status on the restoration of that, and what are some of the future plans for the whole facility, because it can be used for a lot of different things. When I was growing up, there were a lot of fairs and fun days and stuff. The primary school can't hold their sports there, and I believe they would benefit from that, because they always have to go to Bridgefield Pasture to play for their school sports. And they go to school right across the road from a pasture and a pavilion, and they have to go so far. So I believe that they would also benefit from that as well. And yeah, that's my first issue. Right, so my second issue now is I believe there's a need for more community youth development programs, as well as programs for the seniors, because many of the youngsters, they may not have the capacities to go on to higher education, but they can go to community development programs in the communities. They can learn skills, get various certificates, and become productive members of the society. As well as the seniors, I've heard a lot of times that older people, they would get to retire. And when they retire, they don't have anything to do, and they would sit there and they would wither away with nothing to do. So I believe there should be programs in a lot of the pavilions around St. Thomas for them to participate in these things, so that they can still contribute to society, because I've always been told that the older people are a wealth of knowledge, but when they're at home with nothing to do, they aren't getting out, and that knowledge is not getting out, so it's kept as a secret, basically. So I believe that with these programs, they can interact with the youth and pass on some of that knowledge, teach the youth some skills, the youth would teach them some things, and they would bridge that intergenerational gap that it seems to be getting wider. So I believe that that's something else that needs to be looked at in St. Thomas. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And with respect to the facilities, I think you will find that the government is very keen
to be able to ensure that sports and recreational facilities are available now in as many communities as possible. So I certainly will ask the Minister of Sports to do an assessment and then to let us know what can be done immediately. Certainly the basketball backboard and the field. I think that St. Thomas has also some very key friends and partners who can help us deal with the field. And then we will look at the community, at the sporting pavilion ourselves, which obviously would involve more. Okay, so thank you for raising it. Thank you. Yes, sir, how are you? I haven't seen you for a while.
Okay. Hi, good night, Ms. Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, members of the Cabinet, and to the good night to the support staff, your auxiliary staff. You know, they're very nice. You know, and the hard on. In fact, I went outside, going to the bathroom, and the gentleman rushed up. Where you going to the bathroom? There. You know, he showed me, and when he come back, he spotted the light on the path, so he could get back inside. You know, so very good work done by the support staff. You know, okay. And
they will appreciate your being. Ms. Ford is asking for your name. I don't know that she recognizes you.
She may not remember my name. But, oh, by the way, for those who don't know, my name is Rory Hines. I live in King Garden. Okay.
Go ahead, sir. I had you as a baby, so there's
Right.
no need for you
Okay,
to.
okay. Yeah, my mother told me about that. Right. Right. The points is very. A lot of the points were very well ventilated here tonight. You know, so I don't have to mention them. Don't have to rehash what was said. But the main point, I remember the sister here talk about Brown's Gap. I wanted to come right after her. She was talking about there's only one part of the road where, you know, you got the sidewalks and you got the street lights. And my major issue is the street lights, you know. A lot of people, like for instance, one lady, she works at Price Mart. You know, Price Mart shuts at 8:30. So she has to come home after 8:30 at night. But she can't see to walk her gap. Pitch dark, you know. I got the poll numbers. If you want them, I can give them to you. Yeah, right? So in Odyssey and Brown's Gap, you know, lots of these small gaps off the main road require street lights, you know, so that people can, right. Okay, that's my only point, okay?
So if you go to the back, Roy, where he can give us the poll numbers, okay? Thanks. Yeah. Right by the door.
Right
Just by
this.
the door, Darian, right there by the door. He's waiting on you, dressed in navy blue like you. No, I didn't mean other than dress.
Thank you. Good night. My name is Felicia Cox. I'm from Content. Hopefully, you give me slight latitude. I want to make a little lemonade, you know, a little sweet, maybe a little sour, but hopefully you ain't gonna feel too bad. Might be refreshing when we finish.
No problem, but just remember there are about 10 or 12
I know,
people after you.
I
so,
know.
and I can't keep
I
the
feel
public
for my
officers
St.
out
Thomas
too
people.
late.
But I feel for them for the reasons that I can raise here. So a little bit of sweet to start with. I'm glad to hear that there's so much work going on with the roads, because hopefully soon the tire man isn't gonna ask me if I is the outside woman. Last year sometime I had so many nails and things in my tires from going across like Shop Hill, because I live past the landfill. I'm gonna call it the dump. I know people that work at sanitation, they hate when you call it the dump. So the landfill. I feel that the construction, people doing construction demolition, that the nails and the screws and things bounce out the trucks because the road is so bad. So I had so many burst tires. One time the guy actually said to me, "Mistress, not to be rude, but you're the outside woman?" I said, "Certainly not." I said, "Because let me show you something." He pulled a bolt as long as my middle finger out of my tire. Those are the kind of things that you're dealing with on a regular basis in St. Thomas. So hopefully he will start calling me the outside woman when that road is begging for that road. I'm begging for that road. I'm begging for that road as a priority. Anyhow, but of course, last year I was here and I begged for my daughter, right? So there's another sweet with a little bit of sour. Thank you to the Transport Board for implementing supervisors at the schools to try to make sure that the buses are actually coming and going with some sort of regularity. That has been a game changer for a lot of the kids, especially leaving school on evenings. But the sour is the buses still ain't running good at the times when most children are trying to catch them. It's gotten so bad that my daughter, who likes to sleep, I ain't gonna tell her lie, started getting up to catch the St. Andrew's Church bus that leaves town at 6 a.m. every day, to the point where she harasses me out of bed at 6 a.m. every day so I can drop her to the bus stop, right? And the main concern I have with this is, of course, we already live in the country, so it don't take too long for that bus to get to the Allen school. She's usually at school before 7 o'clock. Just because she's on the student council, she doesn't want to get to school late. If she waits on the 7:30 bus, she does not get to school on time, She doesn't get to school until prayer starting or even first period and stuff like that. And believe me, we tried. We tried different routes for the same kind of time. It did not work. And she's in fourth form now. They're getting a little older, they're trying to be a little more responsible. And she just made a decision. She's getting at 6:30. The main issue I have with this is there's a little ticklish issue with our route coming back on evenings, where sometimes there are too many students for her to get on what they call the first bus. And the second bus also services the primary school in the area. And then sometimes she's not getting home until after 4 o'clock in the evening. So you got to understand, if she's getting up to leave the house between 6 and 6:20 to catch the bus that is leaving town at 6 o'clock, and she's getting home after 4 in the evening, that's kind of a long day for teenagers that need rest. So whatever can be done to really make it better. There are a whole bunch of children. I could tell you now, it only used to be her and maybe one other little boy. Every day now, I'm seeing 5 and 6 kids at this bus stop now for that 6:30 bus. So more and more people are giving up on the later buses, and the kids are losing sleep. And if you know anything about teenagers and their bodies, the losing sleep is not good for learning. So I'm begging again for my child. I'm begging for them. But the transport issue isn't just about Aline. I mean, the Sturgis bus only comes on a Sunday, and the old people sometimes didn't even sure if it comes in, so they can't even sometimes catch it to get to church. So we got a lot of issues with buses and the reliability of the buses and access. We got a lot of roads in bad repair, or, you're limited in access. You got to walk to a point. So transport still is a little bit of acid for us, right? We sucking some lemons still with transport, and if we could maybe turn that into, some nice brown sugar soon, we would be real appreciative. So my last, sweet and sugar.
Okay, go ahead, because I'll just put Ms. Holder on standby.
My last sweet and sugar is, I know I heard people talking about the playing fields and stuff like that. And I'm going to add to that now on the community center side. So the magistrate courts used to be the St. Thomas Social Center. And we would love it if we could get it back, because what kind of tried to replace that is Hill House up in Dunscombe, which is a small space. And that operated for about 15 years, but is in disrepair now. And even though we've asked for help for it, we don't even know when or if it's gonna be repaired. I think it was probably something through RDC or something. A request was made to try to repair that. But so many people have moved into St. Thomas. Just the area I live in, Content, you've got 2 developments either side of the road, and you've got hundreds of houses.
Where are you suggesting? Dunscombe?
Well, the Dunscombe Hill House, to have that renovated if possible, and to perhaps expedite the changeover for the one in Content/Rock Hall, so that we can start having maybe some community activities, because that's not, how it is when people are transplants. You come into the neighborhood, unless you can talk to a neighbor. And before COVID, we used to have some little limes under the street light. I ain't gonna lie. But I was really hoping, hearing that maybe a change was coming, that they could even start a dance group. My daughter loves dancing. Real community engagement could happen. And there's so many more people now. And I think Eastern cut road for another development now further up the hill. So even more people are moving into the district soon. So we really, really need in this area quite a bit of community
I
facilities.
think that the point has been well made. St. Thomas must have community facilities. And the question is where we put them and how we get them done. And as I said, look, I would have wished to be able to play shots from day one in government. But you all know that we had to come in and deal with the debt restructuring, and then we had to deal with COVID and the ashfall and the thing. And that cost us, as you heard me say last week, between the COVID, the ashfall, and the hurricane, basically an extra $1 billion. You understand? In what we had to put out for those things. But we have taken careful note, and we're starting to make sure that we can start to address the deficits with respect to physical infrastructure, from the roads and the bridges right back through to the facilities, be they community development, educational, or health care. And we're literally looking to move forward on the fronts, but it is going to take some patience still for people, and we ask people to remember that, okay? But if there are small things that we can do in the interim, like the basketball backboard and the different other things, and getting the playing field level again, we must proceed and do those while planning and getting the designs for the larger facilities. I think the one, I heard both AG and William, Senior Minister, say that the one in Rock Hall, content, has been transferred back to housing, with housing to be able to fix up and to have there for you, because it was previously used as the Magistrates Court, which it isn't anymore. Okay? Can I ask Mrs. Holder to address, please?
Good night. I am Linda Holder from the Transport Board. As it relates to your queries, I believe you might be a little bit behind. Since we would have had the issue last year, both here and in St. Andrew, we have put a lot of effort into making sure that the Allen School in particular is getting improved services. We now send no less than 10 buses to the Allen School on different routes. So I am pleased that your daughter wants to get to school early, but there is every single morning a 6, a 7, and an 8 o'clock St. Andrew's Church bus. Every morning. Every morning. You're agreeing with me. You spoke about your evening issues. There are 2 St. Andrew's Church buses and 2 Sherry Village buses coming out of Allen School every evening. Yes, every evening. So we tried to correct the issues that had been raised last year. So we are making sure that Allen School children, for sure, are getting in and out. So I am not sure why she's choosing to leave home so early, but we can probably have a one-on-one conversation. But we have corrected the issues with the Allen School bus. As it relates to the Sturgis bus, we had tested the Sturgis bus with one of the new electric buses. We realized it was too big for the area, so we have put TAP vehicles in there, which are ZRs. Now, one of them was dedicated in there and has been running constantly for the last 3 to 4 weeks. I added a second one 2 weeks ago. So you're getting a Sturgis service every hour, not just on Sundays, every hour throughout the week for the last 2 to 3 weeks. And we are continuing to monitor that to make sure that you do not have any recurring problems. Okay? So we can speak one-on-one if there's something specific. But as it relates to the transportation, we have been putting effort into fixing that, and we've plugged those holes. So you'll have to tell me if there's something I miss. Okay? Yes, yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Holder, are you through, please?
Yes, ma'am.
You have touched a corn.
I've touched the corn.
We have not had a proper Sturgis bus from 2018.
You told me that,
It was a
ma'am.
route, hold on. It was a route, I'm very passionate about it, because when my seniors have to bend up in either the TAP program vans, like the ZRs, and the ZRs that are the worst thing that happened to Barbados, although we wanted to strengthen ordinary people and empower them. the behavior, the old people get cursed. They get put off on the main road and get up when you're going to journey. If they give a $5, they don't get back the change. Their fellows smoke the weed. They curse at everything else that's negative. The Sturgis bus was always a bus from the Rockland bus time. When we transferred from the Rockland bus to the transport board, Sturgis was having a bus all the time, at least one every hour. All the people became familiar with the bus and used it. But now, the ZRs that are plying the route, 3/4 of them are illegal. They're from the Jackson route. If one of those buses comes down Ashford Hill and gets in an accident, those people who get injured, God forbid, cannot get a claim. But the only time we see a Sturgis Transport Board bus, and we don't want any Chinese bus or any special bus, we want a bus from the Transport Board that can take the people. And this is 5 consecutive years that I've been calling Transport Board. I've written officially, Sturgis sees a bus on a Sunday morning around 8:30, and perhaps another around after 10. None in the week. People are hurrying with children. They can't get to work. They can't get to school. I would like for us to resolve it, please.
Can we ask everybody
Please.
just to have, so we can hear, please? Thank you.
I would just like to have a bus for Sturgis so that people can rely on it, that they can have a safer journey, because your buses, meaning the transport board, are the safest we could ever want in Barbados. But my old people cannot tolerate the cursing and the smoking and the not giving back the change from the $5. Get up from here, walk the distance, and it's lonesome. And on evenings after 6:30, you do not see a ZR to take them anywhere, or a TAP bus. And I think that needs to be done. And the final thing is, some parents are complaining that the TAP buses are charging the children funds. I do not know if that is the policy of the children drive freely and they get a ticket and they get reimbursed. Would you be able to explain that?
Yes, I can. So let me go back first to the Sturgis. I heard everything you said. You have repeated that to us constantly. There's no denying you have been arguing for it for a while. You've asked for the Hino buses. The Hino buses that we have are very old, have been put out there, and we have been trying to repair those buses. The buses are under a repair program right now. I cannot say to you that you're going to get the Hino bus, which is what you've been asking for. What we did, since the time I did the tour with you, what we did was to put, you don't like the TAP vehicles, but we put something in place. And the TAP vehicles that are in place right now are actually working, because they have gone to the point that they have developed a relationship with those particular drivers, because we've dedicated TAP vehicles in there at this point in time. So it might not be what you wanted, but we made sure we put in a service. And the service appears to be working. I am monitoring it constantly. You keep shaking your head, but I can...
I live in the Vault Road.
I know, ma'am. I know exactly where you live. I can tell you right down to the bus numbers that are working constantly on an hourly basis.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I know you're doing a fantastic job, but I still have my issues, and I would wish for something to happen all like next week, Sunday, for a bus to run the route, even if it's only one bus that goes to town and come back, and at lunchtime another bus takes over, a driver takes over, because the people are really suffering and they're disgruntled. And then we, the politicians, get the curse back. They don't do nothing for nobody. Yeah. I've so tired of hearing it, but it is not without effort, and I know that you are trying, but other than that, nothing has happened since 2018. And that is where the problem is. Thank you.
Just to add to that, add on from what Linda is saying, I'm told by the CEO as well that there are 4 Hino buses that they've been trying to get into operation on that route. The expectation is that by early, mid-June, that those should be fully in operation. But as Ms. Holder indicated, the challenge is obviously there are old buses, and it obviously takes a little bit longer to get them into operation. And just like I've been begging for more money for roads, we've been talking with PM about more buses. And that is the direction I know that we're working behind the scenes to try to be able to increase the fleet of the number of buses that are, the transport board buses that are available to the government as well.
Good night to the head table. Hear me? My name is Gail Hoyt from Shop Hill. And tonight I'm here again, like last year, talking about my street light. St. Thomas is still too dark. I get to work for 5 o'clock. So I don't want anything to go happen to me. So I need to have street lights. I've heard Dr. Hines talked about it.
Which
so.
areas you talking about?
Pardon?
Shop Hill?
Yes, please.
No problem.
You said to me last year, we'll have it.
We'll get the poll numbers.
Okay, thank you. Another issue I have is I'm the church secretary at Shop Hill Church of the Nazarene. We called about 3 months ago to the drainage system, to the drainage unit, to clear our drains because we were having like mosquitoes and stuff. We don't want dengue for our members. For our residents too, but the members when they come into the church. I think they came, but when I got up the next morning also, this is 3 months now, I can see 2 big cans. I don't know if it was a manhole that dropped in, I don't know what happened, but 2 big cans are there with a caution tape. We don't know why. I need an answer. Can somebody help me? We got 2 big cans on the road, 2 big cans close to the church.
Once you shift to the right, he can shift to the right.
Oh.
Good night, Charles. Good night, Charles. You with Drainage Division. I have to find out what's happening there because I'm not aware of the complaint itself. What I know is that every day we have 5 teams who leave the department and go out and do work. And they do significant amount of work. And we will be proposing to hire additional persons for at least the next 4 to 6 months to get the pump teams going. We have more modernized the system response in way of having traditional trucks. So we have persons who go out and have the tools on it and not someone walking to the area and then losing the tools. I will speak to the lady about it. If someone went and put cans, then it may be one of reconstruction by the depot, but I have the coordinator, I'll deal with it.
Thank you. You need my number? I'm
Speak
finished. I'm finished.
All right, who's next, please?
Good night, Madam Prime Minister, Head Table, Members of Parliament. I'm here to talk about the bank. I'm Mr. Eugene from Spring Farm, St. Thomas. James Eugene, Spring Farm, St. Thomas. I want to talk about the bank. And while somebody was talking about the school, we have Turners Hall Primary School want a hard coat, Miss Ford. We are talking, I put that on the side, a hard coat for Turners Hall. He'll be Turners Hall, they ain't got no hard coat there, and the girls ain't got nothing to play at night, on the evening though. So you could look into this. But Hurley be Turners Hall, they ain't got no hard coat in this school here. Because they got a big ground there, but they ain't got no hard coat. Yes, and the next thing now, my daughter Sherifa works at Warren with the time with the COVID from 2020. And up to now, she ain't get 2 years' money. When she called the treasurer says she sent it to the bank. The bank, I don't know if they send it on the right number or what. She worked there COVID all that time, and she ain't got she money. So I don't know. And when she called the treasurer, yes, ma'am. When she called the treasurer.
No problem. Those matters we don't take publicly. If you just go to Mr. Morris, we'll deal with that.
Oh, I tell you who to go to because we called and this body should call back tomorrow.
No problem. We don't
Oh, you, sir? Okay.
Thank you.
Good. All
right.
That's a good thing. The next thing again, I had an account in the bank. I hear, Prime Minister, I only say so because I hear you say you're going to deal with some matters with the bank. But I want to commend you because we had a letter in January that they're going to raise the tipping fee double. And the central bank said no. So they sent me another letter. If they're paying $750, they're going to pay 100%. Okay, they send out some central bank get in and they bring it back now. Now, I had an account, my wife dead and left, and I treasure it because she dead. But I don't know that they're taking the money every month. So I waiting for the money, so I looking at it. When I hear things, they call me. All the money gone. I didn't mind all the money gone, but they still send a bill I have to pay hundreds of dollars because the bank didn't have enough money in it. So they charge me then. I never know that, Prime Minister.
The truth is that we are looking at the creation of a financial ombudsman because I think you're going to need somebody who can deal with the concerns of average persons and companies, small companies, large companies, because there's what you call an unequally yoked relationship. And you, Pastor Eugene, will tell us that the Bible tells us that we should not be unequally yoked. Exactly. Sorry, Bishop Eugene. That we're not to be unequally yoked. I apologize for not recognizing your ascension and elevation. But honestly, the Ministry of Finance is in discussion now about whether we should not create a financial ombudsman. Just as we have an ombudsman dealing with other matters, somebody who is schooled in the issue of banking and financial matters, but who can help unlock and disentangle some of the issues so that you do not have that lack of capacity to engage with the people who are holding your money. So suffice it to say that we're going to look at that and hopefully that will begin to right some of the wrongs.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. But you know, it's poor people that suffer. Because if you got $10 and the bank take it, the man that got the 1,000 don't feel it.
And that's exactly why we're looking at it, and that's exactly why the central bank and the Ministry of Finance have been just as vociferous as we have been about the change in the business case for banks where they are lending less and relying on fees more. They're being profitable, but the extent to which they rely on fees is causing problems, and it doesn't build out economic activity in the country. Now, as I said last week, also, you can go and get a loan for a car almost in minutes, but when it comes to getting a loan for productive activity, a business, or a loan for a house or land, then that's a completely different story.
A lot of trouble.
So we need to be able to ensure that the excess, and the government knows that there's a lot of excess liquidity in the banking system. When we came into office, savings was about $8-9 billion. It is now about 14. So there has been significant increase in savings, but we need to make sure that it is used in a more purposeful manner. This is not a problem that is unique to Barbados. This is a problem throughout the entire region. So, but I do feel that by having the financial ombudsman, that will begin to correct some of the issues. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. And next thing, when my wife died, she left a credit card money owed. And I went to the bank, they said to bring death certificate, cause of death. When they say cause of death, I said, well, you think I killed you? But anyhow, I carry cause of death, proof of death, and all this thing. And the manager said he will deal with it. I didn't have nothing for them for a couple of years. Sometime back a letter comes forthwith. I got to pay $17,000 in 2 months' time. I said, what are you talking about? I went down there. Now, they had insurance, but I didn't know. Anyhow, I went in, and the lady said, oh, credit card account, don't, when people there, they don't down, you got to still pay for it. But they never tell me so. Now, it was $3,000. They never write me. They say they send a letter or two. They never write me. They never tell you that you got to pay for it. But they wait till the interest and the non-payment gone to 3 times more than the money. You could do that to poor people. So I went in, and I went upstairs, and I went up there, and the manager come, and the next body come. He said, Mr. Eugene, you go up here. I said, I ain't paying that money. So he said, well, they will have to put you in court, and if you lost the case, you got to pay the case. I said, now listen, I'm a priest. I could go there and get locked up. I would preach and thing, but I ain't paying 11,000 for 3,000. Another lady come and say, well, James, I say, if you all they tell me from the beginning, I must pay what she left, I would pay. Up to now, I paid, but not you let it stand to mount up 3 times more. You could do that to poor people. That's robbing.
And that's why I'm saying that we need the financial ombudsman.
Good, ma'am. Do that quickly.
Really and truly, from the time that she passed, they should have alerted you to it.
But they didn't tell me to pay for it, ma'am. They tell me to bring death certificate and they're going to do this and get it. Never right. But had non-payment, late payment, all sort of things.
No, they need to give you all the facts up front.
All right, the last one now. Well, I carried Miss Ford with me the last time. I lent my son-in-law 35,000.
You didn't tell us what happened. The matter is still outstanding.
No, I get that. I pay. They make me pay the old money that she there owe.
The 3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And
or else I would have gone to jail.
And they wrote off the rest.
Yes, please.
So you got to tell the people the whole story. So they still had a
heart.
No.
Well,
they still had a heart.
Yeah. Or else you will come and bail me. They go in jail.
And they were aware that they were dealing with a bishop.
I don't know if I tell them so. I didn't tell them so, but the next thing I take a loan on my piece of land for my son-in-law. And it was $35,000, and I gave them the land paper and everything and this thing. And the boy paying the loan. But what happened to him, I want to know why this could happen. I don't know if he knows somebody in the bank. I know if somebody there, his friend, he stopped paying the money. The bank never wrote me for a whole year. When I get a letter from them, I have to go. I had to carry Miss Ford with me. You know they want to take my land? Because non-pay fee. I don't know why I'm so unlucky. When I carry Miss Ford with me, and when I went down there, when I called his son-in-law, he said his name was not on the loan. It is true. But why did bank, you can let somebody, if my water I pay 2 months, the water bill cut it off. Why a bank could let somebody owe so much money and don't call them? So I carry Miss Ford with me. You remember that, Miss Ford? I had to pay 2,000 forthwith, and I had to pay. But I paid that. And I got the paper. So if anybody want to buy the land, I will sell it. Because So I feel that something to happen with the bank because they don't, the big people must get the answer. It's the same thing with Clico. I had a policy there for a good few years, pay policy. And when the thing come in 2018, the Prime Minister, whatever, he passed away on them, anyhow. And I didn't pay the balance of the money, or I didn't continue paying. When I go, the woman tell me, oh, Mr. Eugene, it have been closed down. I said, but when did Clico break down? When Clico break down, I still pay. But because I didn't pay after I heard the Prime Minister say he paid 10 billion, I put 10 million in Clico business. We don't have no trouble here in Barbados. You all didn't hear this? You all didn't hear it. The other morning, I put 10 million in Clico. So Barbados Clico is not in problem. Then I lost all that money. When I still got the thing, the policy home, not a cent. I ain't got a cent. And a friend of mine that had the one, because he had name, they call him and pay him his money. And my little 2 cents, I ain't get it up to the day. I got the policy. You, Minister, if you could help me, I still want my money. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Bishop Eugene. Leslie saw a call from you this morning, but I didn't get a chance because I've been going non-stop. Go on.
Good evening to the head table and Prime Minister and your cabinet. Welcome to the best parish in Barbados. I know the AG would not want to agree with me, but the facts is here, all right? And Ms. Ford can bear me out on that. Anyhow, I want to, oh, my name? Oh, yeah, Wesley Chandler. Wesley Chandler. Richmond Hall. That's in St. Thomas. Right. Now, I want Deputy Prime Minister to help me with something before I get into my main speech, really. A few nights ago, Monday night to be exact, I was traveling on Bridgefield Road. Michael Allen now speak about rugby and cane garden in those areas, right? Now, there's a little village, a very small village, after past rugby, named Dings Village. And as you rightfully know, the road is kind of compromised because of the waterworks, pipeline exercise, right? But hear this, my phone ring, as a good citizen, as a good road user, I pull off the road. I pull my car completely off the road to answer my phone because I don't want, number one, to be distracted and driving, and number two, I really can't pay for a fine. Not even 1 minute in my conversation, a SUV Jeep come right alongside my car. Two white people was in that car and looked at me straight. Skipper, this is private property. I raised my hand in acknowledgement to terminate my call. Get off my F-land. Dings Village. You know those two houses that built over there? Well, the last house that built. So I remember George Floyd. I remember Trayvon. He did running down some street with a candy in his hand. And I remember Rodney King. They suffer at the hands, you know. And I say, see me, I would do the rightful thing and I move on. So I would like Deputy Prime Minister to tell me if because you plant lawn grass or grass up at the edge of the road, in case of a demise in your vehicle, could I pull off the road on that grass? Do you still have a boundary line for the road? I would like to ask that. Where do I go?
Wesley, I have to give you the bad news. The road is presumably public, but the land beside the road is not. So if you go onto the person's land, it is a trespass. Whether what he did was the decent and humane thing to do, that's another issue. Okay? But if you drive on to Miss Ford's land or anybody else's land, it is a trespass, and they're entitled to demand that you move. Okay?
AG?
No, you asked a question. You might not like the answer, but my job is
I don't like it already.
My job is, but you already know the answer because you left. You moved off, okay? I heard you on the radio, I think it was this morning about it. Your annoyance is understandable, but then once you leave the road, you are on private property.
AG, and that's where you come in. That's where you come in. That's where the Ministry of Public Works is coming. You tell me if I had a flat, if my car break down, I got to leave it in the middle of the road. It making sense to you, AG?
You do not have a right to trespass. Now, you may have extraordinary circumstances, and I believe most people will say, no problem, boss. In fact, I come in to check and see if you're all right. Some people will do that, but there are others who will not. Okay? And if that happens to you again, just say, thank you, Mr. So-and-so, and put your car in the road and fix your business. The road is a public thoroughfare, and unless you're blocking it, I don't think there's an issue.
AG, you understand what happened in that stretch of road, though? Anyhow, you're the lawyer, you're the minister, you're the AG. So,
I wish to respond to the issue from a public perspective. Under planning law, you have a developer who asks, yes, the AG is right. The person owns the land at the end of most of the cases, on the boundary, on the road edge, except in subdivisions where you have the lot or the land separating the road reserve from the land for development. And so you have, in some cases, a boundary wall being erected, usually 5 feet on it. I would recommend that we consider, under planning law, a number of a condition, and it's a present condition as well. It used to be at some time, I see Rudy here, you get permission with conditions, and a condition used to be set that you must clear the road reserve to curb height and provide a sidewalk. Yes, the thing is that while it's land is so, we used in public works, use that approach. Oftentimes too, you have a road with, say, a verge, escarpment, yeah? And it's difficult to separate the pedestrians from the road. And under the Public Works Safety Road Program, we used to provide monies to cut rock bluffs and grow and build sidewalks. And other times, we use those applications where persons with a house, with a hotel, or we ask them to construct a sidewalk as a conditional development. And I'm saying we can go back and enforce those because there are a number of lots that I know of where persons had a condition to reduce their verge to sidewalk and construct a sidewalk. And I'm saying that is a route in which
I
we
think
can
that
go.
that is something that the Ministry of Planning can take and take up and look at and see, but we also will live with the fact that you also have those developments where that was not done all through the decades. But I think that there's a more basic point here. We're talking about road and we're talking about road reserve. The issue is how we treat one another. And certainly that situation could have gone south either which way. You, if you were ignorant, Wesley, could have taken umbrage and you would have been in trouble one way or the other. They would have been in trouble one way or the other. And that's why I really feel that we need to reinforce in each other, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There's too much lack of civility. People just need to be able to breathe. You know, and I am not telling you that any of us are perfect, but our next sentence and our next mood is under our control. Our next sentence and our next mood is under our control. And more often than not, I practiced enough criminal law in this country to know that there was, for the most part, and the AG will confirm, a lot of the murders that we had in Barbados were basically people falling out. In the court, the triple murder, I'm told, was one where people fall out. How we control our mood and our temper and our road rage and all of these things matters. And you can end up with somebody either losing their life literally or losing their life to prison. And for over what? In circumstances where anybody can get a flat tire, any part of Barbados, any hour of day or night. And we literally take pride in being that country where you can get a flat tire, don't have a cent on you, and especially somebody will stop and say, Something wrong? Can I help? Similarly, we were that country where you saw people getting in an accident on the road. Is everybody okay? Does anybody need to go to the hospital? Do you need me to call the police? And I'm asking us through this meeting to be able to return to that kind of behavior, because when we are literally spewing forth venom, more often than not, it is a boomerang and it comes back at you. And I thank you for raising it, if only to be able to raise people's level of consciousness. I would like to believe that race was not part of it, but if it was, then it is even more to be condemned. I am saying to each of us, we have control over what comes out of our mouths, taste our words, and control our moods.
Prime Minister, I hear you, but I still feel
and I'm not saying this for you, I'm saying this for
I understand
everybody,
that.
so that it's not against you at
I
all.
understand that, Madam Prime Minister, but I also want to say that I feel hard done by the government if you're going to reconstruct a road, if you're going to do road development, and you don't leave a little pull-off at the side of the road.
Sometimes you can do it, Wesley, and you are a car man, so you know it better than most. Sometimes you can do it, and sometimes you can't. Let's take Calimaroc. I would love Calimaroc to become a 3 or 4 lane highway. But the cost of making Calimaroc a 3 or 4 lane highway would be completely prohibitive because of where the houses are on the road. So I use that as an example just to show you that we may not always be able to afford to do what you would like us to do. In an ideal situation, we should. And what Mr. Yearwood put on the table for planning to consider, we should. But I also want us to recognize that Barbados is not a greenfield site, that we come along and see houses and roads. In fact, Barbados got more roads per capita than most countries in the world. And the density of where our housing is so bad that it makes traffic management, and this is one of the points I said to the DPM, that the next major thing we have to confront is the issue of traffic management. But it makes traffic management difficult because you do not have the space to expand the roads without considerable cost to government, as the AG would tell you, because you've got to acquire the land either by private treaty or compulsory acquisition. Now, this government has tried to do differently from others. Not perfect, but where we acquire land, we try to pay for it, okay? And the truth is that we're still dealing with a backlog that was there for God knows how long, and trying to negotiate with people to be able to have those persons for whom that long backlog is there, or have been waiting long, to be able to take, I think it is Series J bonds that we offer with respect to those. So I hear you, but I ask us to also remember Barbados is not a greenfield site, and we don't have the luxury of planning roads from now. We have inherited a lot of roads, and in some instances, while it is desirable to have the area and the lay-by in certain areas to pull off on, it doesn't always happen. And we see the same thing when we travel. It doesn't always happen with every highway or every road.
Fair enough. Well, I won't prolong this no longer, but I want to say, on my other point, I heard the Deputy Prime Minister spoke about Hangman Hill. Last year, at Leicester Vaughan, I spoke about Stony Gully, Lancaster, Endeavour, to lead you right back on, Ms. Ford know what we're talking about. Michael Allen know what we're talking about. Any original St. Thomas person know that is over 50 years know what I'm speaking about. This road from Stony Gully could lead you straight through to Lancaster, down in Endeavour, back on to Hangman Hill. Now, right now, nothing sort can happen unless you travel through, and you have to be driving a 4x4 if you want to go on to Hangman Hill. And another danger you have to pass through, you have to trespass now, this is a real trespass, through the guy farm. And I don't think it is fair to the guy that have the farm there. So the road need to be fixed, the bridge need to be fixed, so that you can come right away through from Stony Gully, you know. I would really like to see Stony Gully finish though. I would really like to see that finish, you know, and go right through to Lancaster and reach you back on to Hangman Hill. My very last point is this. I have a friend that lives in Warren. Sometimes he get a letter or a bill stated that he live in St. Thomas, Warrens. He still get the same letter, and he will also get another letter stating that he live in St. Thomas. So I live in two parishes, St. Michael and St. Thomas. And that is what brings me to this point now. Deputy Prime Minister, when are you going to seriously look at that all about the call the roundabout outside of St. Motors? No, seriously, that's serious talk. Christmas time. That's a road that I traverse every day of my life. Around the Christmas festive period, I count 11 accidents. Mind you, there wasn't major accidents, but every month, no less than 4 accidents happen at that all about. And every single minister since it was constructed promised to fix it. When do we get relief there? Yeah, I finished.
Thank you, sir. In speaking with Senior Minister, you are correct that it has passed from one minister to the next. I assure you, I will have the officers take a look at it and see if there is another option in terms of being able to address that particular roundabout. I think, though, that it will have to obviously be done in conjunction with wider traffic issues in that particular area. So I don't know that we can deal with that in isolation. But I assure you, we'll have the studies done and try to see how we can actually address it. On the issue of Stony Gully, though, my understanding is that that is about 65% in terms of the wall. The completion is almost done. They're intended.
You don't get the Stony Gully yet?
No. Hold on. I'm speaking about the wall. Okay.
No, the wall outside the post office.
They're to extend that into the road bluff. And then they are going to commence the footpath by next week. So that is my understanding in terms of where it is progressing. I agree with you. It has taken longer than I would have hoped. And I think you can appreciate, I recall going with a representative for the area with Philip Tudor at the time, the former Chief Technical Officer of the ministry. And we walked that area, the entire team, we identified what the issues were, and the works were to have started on that. And I am taking each of the areas where we have had situations that have been outstanding for a long time. And we got a whole priority list of works that we are working through with the depots, with the technical teams. Prime Minister has just given us, I understand, about 4 more technical people who are coming to the ministry on Monday, because we have some capacity issues in the ministry to help us to stay on top of these particular projects. But Stony Gully is definitely on the list, and that's why I can report to you that they are in the process of bringing that to closure as well.
So far, the road that being done, looking good. But that stone, that rock, that overhang, that need to be taken out. Anyhow, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Wesley.
Thank you very much. We have 5 more persons still on the list, and it is heading for 10 o'clock. So we need to move rather quickly, please. Try to keep your submissions as brief as you can.
Good night, everyone. My name is Evelina King Harper. Last year, I raised an issue. Sharon St. Thomas. Last year, I raised an issue where I was being affected severely with flooding. Thanks to Deputy Prime Minister, the well was cleaned and they moved 2 skips of stuff from the well. I want to say thanks much But the issue, we had some slight rain at Christmas, and the issue is still not resolved. The sidewalk at the bottom of this gap is the main culprit where the water can no longer get in the drain. And it's pushing all of that water down to me. And unfortunately, a bad bout of dengue in January scattered me out. And thankfully, the drought now, the drought now is giving me a reprieve, but it was still like the issue. If possible, looked at, and if there's anywhere where you can make like another space on this, in the side of the sidewalk where the water can just get in the drain to stop the water from pushing the rain, everything down to me. That is my only thing.
Can I ask Charles if you can speak to this? Because I would have raised this quite a few times in terms of addressing this issue. I know that we did the cleaning, as you said, but the wider issues in terms of drainage obviously needs to be addressed.
Okay, right, yeah. Yes, I'm aware of the location. But what's happened when we rely on sometimes too much water to get downstream and not take the water at source upstream. So what's happening with her location is that water is coming off the, where am I? BRC up here, right? I'm asking, right, yeah. So it's coming down from BRC, and it's not being trapped off enough coming from BRC, coming down here, and we need to put more interventions on that area. Yeah? Okay.
And just one last thing, the hoist or whatever it was that they used to clean the well is still there since about December. I'm not sure if they finished or if they're coming back.
Thank you for telling me, and that's why I said earlier that we're reintroducing the fleet management system, because I am tired of us being told that equipment has been sitting in locations without being operating. And again, this is an issue that we're going to have to wrestle to the ground, both for drainage and wider MTW and the depots, because it is not good enough that the equipment is either not repaired or that it has been placed somewhere and nobody can seem to tell where it is. Fortunately, the GPS system that we have already it is working wonders, because it is telling me when people are going in places where they ought not to. So I can pick up the shops. And I can pick up some turnings off the main roads as well. And we're going to have to drill down in order to make sure that the equipment is actually put into operation.
Yes, except, ma'am, that the ministry's GPS system will not pick up public works equipment at that site. It's being done by a private contractor who's completed the works 2 months ago, over 2 months ago, have not invoiced us yet. And we've been trying to get that a couple contractors to invoice. And there lies one of the dilemmas we have when we have contractors who do work.
He's doing so well, he doesn't want any money?
Well, then they will say that, we have a problem with performance, well, contract performance. A small company or any company cannot operate, I don't see how it can operate efficiently if it does not claim the monies for which its clients owe.
Thank you.
Good night to the Minister Bashaw and the Prime Minister and the panels. My name is Patsy Nurse. I'm from St. Thomas, but I'm living in St. Michael's now. Now, last year I talked to Ms. Ford about the youngsters in Port Spring, St. Thomas, about the spring. And they promised me that they're going to go and see the youngsters and talk to them consistent where they're going to go ahead and help them and stuff like that. Also, I talked to Ms. Ford about the center, the community center, where that the children can, it's coming up now to the Easter time. Instead of the children playing, at home, they got the center where they can do a lot of things, and nothing has been done so far. So that's why I'm back here, to find out where we go from here. Is there anything you could tell us, Ms. Ford?
Cynthia, I don't know if you want to update, or if Charles is in a position to speak to it.
Yeah, I was saying, Ms. Nurse, the Hall Community Center would have been closed for the Magistrates Court that was discussed earlier, and representation was made to the community development, and the chief community officer now, Mrs. Keat, will be able to tell you and let you know there are efforts to complete the upgrades of the social center so that activities can happen there again. In relation to Pori Spring, as far as I am aware, Pori Spring is private property. I have no problem going to see the guys. Everybody knows I go everywhere. But I am not going to be engaged at my level as a member of parliament and as a citizen to want to interfere with anything concerning anybody that is operating on property that is not theirs and there's no permission. And therefore, there isn't much I could do other than recommend to the Ministry of Housing and Lands whatever is happening there so that they can go and pursue it and assist the guys if the permission is granted. But I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to deal with that matter in the way that I would like to, were the land owned and rented, or what do you call the other one? Not acquired, leased to these young men who have great intentions, but to be operating on property that is not theirs and they haven't got any permission. For me, that will pose a problem. I will handhold them as best as I can through the procedure, but I would not be able to tell them anything definitive unless it is within the law.
Right, can I just ask Patsy if Ms. Skeet can just take the mic and just give us an update as to what is happening there?
A very pleasant good night to everyone. My name is Yolande Skeet. I'm the Acting Chief Community Development Officer. And certainly in relation to the Rock Hall facility, which is the old district, the Magistrate Court, we have plans to have that building refurbished. We have the approved plans from the Ministry of Transport and Works, and we have also included that in the estimates for this financial year. So certainly you should see, a refurbished facility there, because we recognize that there was a dearth of community activities in that area for quite some time. But we have what we have encountered, and we found that there were some challenges in relation to pricing. So we now have to engage the services of a quantity surveyor so that when we go in and we have started that project, we can bring that project to conclusion. So certainly the residents in Rock Hall, you are going to be able to have a facility, and I can say the time frame, I would hazard a guess to say it should be concluded before the end of the year, because we have to treat to that in more than one phase. There was the actual, the building itself, and because of the aesthetics, where the building was a magistrate court, we are going to try to make it community friendly. So therefore you find that there is an area there where we are asking the Ministry of Environment and Beautification to install there a play park, that area, so that persons, parents come into the center, then they can actually, have the children there, and the children would be able to have that as a recreational area. But certainly the building, we have started the process, we've gutted, and that gutting of the building, it showed us then what we need to do, but we are well on the way to ensuring that that building is refurbished. So hopefully we can have that handed over to the community within the coming year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another thing, what I'm concerned about is Garden Commons Hospital. Now, for me, I think that the Prime Minister should look at it and try to work back in Garden Commons, because to help the QEH, they have, older folks that parents, children leave the parents there, and then, they don't have no room at the hospital, no beds, no rooms or no beds and stuff like that. So it'd be good if Garden Commons work back in to help these older folks. So what I would like is that, the Prime Minister look into it, instead of letting the building just stay there unabandoned, because I passed through there a day this week with some tourists, and I was telling them that this was Garden Commons Hospital, where they had older folks there, and to see it, run to ruin and nothing been done. So I would like to find out if the Prime Minister will decide to reopen Garner Cummings as a hospital where that it can help elder folks.
We're looking to see how best we can use it and to have some kind of respite care for persons. So we're looking at it now. But you're absolutely correct. And remember in the budget last week, I talked about all these buildings that derelict or unused. So the country can't afford to have that level of derelict buildings. But in some instances, we will be open to public-private partnerships too, because government can't do everything.
Because I myself, I was even thinking about asking to lease it where that you can get all the folks to come in and, they could stay. Because they have all the folks that parents, the children, got to go to work, and then they don't have nobody to keep them. So at least it could be like a daycare for the elderly. So I feel that y'all should look into it more, consistent in the elderly, and see how we can go from there.
Most appreciated, Patsy, and we'll certainly check it out.
And Prime Minister, you have a lot of buildings that, that y'all just stay there and let run to run. It'd be good if y'all put them into doing something important, because we have a lot of older people, some people in town don't have no place to sleep and stuff like that, and they're on the street. So like for instance, we have the police station, Austin Police Station, we got Worthing Police Station, we have these buildings just closed up and nothing been done. So if you can just look into it and do something for the people, please.
There's a paper tomorrow also coming for us to consider with respect to the Ministry of People Empowerment and Homelessness. But I want us to be very clear that homelessness is not only an issue that relates to lack of a house to go to, and that invariably there are other social conditions that have led to that condition. So we're conscious of it, and as I said, we're working both on not just the housing, the physical side of it, but also the other issues that cause people to become homeless, whether it is victims of abuse, whether it is mental health problems. There are a whole range of other things that lead to it. So we're conscious of it. With respect to the derelict buildings, I told you last week in the budget, one of the key strategies that we announced is being able to deal with the derelict buildings and lots, because if we don't find a way of putting them back into productive use, the country suffers, which is effectively what you have been saying tonight. So you are speaking in line with our government policy.
And to Mr. Marshall, they have a lot of young people that on drugs and, on cocaine and stuff like that, and they go to prison. And they don't have a program like, okay, for instance, like the rehab. Is there a rehab at the prison where that when these guys go up there that they can help them, where that they won't come back in society, where that they go back on drugs and stuff like that? Because right now, all young people is on cocaine, and in that they want to go and do crime and stuff like that, but it's the cocaine that affecting them. So is there a program in the prison that can help these young people?
Yes, in fact, there are programs in the prison that are geared towards rehabilitation. But I have to tell you that some years ago, we actually passed legislation to relook the entire issue of penal reform. So people who have drug issues are not automatically sent to prison. In truth and in fact, prison may not be the place for them. So our magistrates and judges have a wide variety of options in terms of sentencing to try to see what is the best possible option for sentencing an individual which can balance the public's interests in punishment, but also balance the individual's interests in rehabilitation. But the answer to your question, yes, there are a number of programs in the prison. Of course, the prison service is not under my portfolio. It's under Minister Abraham's. But I can assure you that there are programs in the prison. Then, of course, there's the aftercare. So that when people, of course, you can't force people to engage in aftercare programs, but there are a number of aftercare programs and facilities that are intended to try to help people kick the habit, try to help them to be reintegrated fully into the society.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Nurse, Sorry, there's three other
You got
people.
other people behind you.
Three people
Okay.
behind you, and it's 10 o'clock.
But I just want to say to Ms. Bashaw, thank you for Spikestone Road. It's driving. Thank you so much for what you have been done so far for the roads and stuff like that. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, Madam Prime Minister, the panel, to everyone here. My name is Shamika Fagan. I live in Hillaby, St. Thomas.
SH or CH?
SH. Okay, so my concern tonight is the La Savant School. My son attends that school. As most of you know, they have been online now for the past 5 weeks, even La Savant.
The chief education officer is there, and I think yes, is still there, but I'll ask them to address the issue of the school.
Yes, I saw them here, so I was hoping that they got in a word a little earlier, but the line was a little long. So my biggest concern, I see the report was sent out, and it showed there is no issues. My biggest concern really is what's next for these children. Online platform now isn't online during COVID. During COVID, the parents were home, at least most of us. But now I have to manage work and online school. At the end of the day, he's probably not home with someone every day, so I have to be calling in between work. Are you signed in? Did you sign in for registration? Did you do your assignments? And it's tough. So I am really hoping, noting the report results, I am hoping come term 3, we are able to come to some sort of decision to figure out what's best for our children and the teachers too, because no one wants to work in an environment where it's making them ill. Granted, my disappointment was that the issues were not raised earlier, because everybody is on the plan as it's referred to, but only the teachers are reporting what they're getting ill with. Will there be a report to come out to say what the teachers were experiencing? So us as parents then could then reassess our kids to ensure that they are not experiencing these same issues. At the end of the day, we don't need another Louis Lynch saga. I know people who attended there who fell ill, and it's unfortunate. So I am really hoping, even after we get this report, the ministry, the board, the teachers, everybody involved, including the parents, can come to a final decision so we can move forward. I know the CSC children are impacted greatly, and we don't need for our children to be failing and paying extra money for them to repeat years when things could have been completed in this year. They're already behind due to the past 3 years of COVID. We don't need to push them back anymore. So that tonight is my biggest concern.
Thank you. I'll ask the chief to address at the end, and we'll just take the other 2 speakers before we come to an end for tonight. Thank you.
Hi, good night. Sorry. I typed what I wanted to say so it would not be so long. Yeah, I know. Okay. Okay, friend. My name is Stephanie Williams. I'm from Chancery, Arthur Seat, St. Thomas. Evening to all the honorable members here. Yeah, I'm sure. First, let me just say thank you for...
What's the name again, sorry?
Stephanie Williams with 2 F's. Steffanie.
Gotcha.
Williams. Chancery, Arthur Seat, St. Thomas.
Which one?
Chancery, Arthur Seat, St. Thomas.
Thank you.
Okay. So I typed out everything I wanted to say so it could be as thorough as possible, not take up too much time. So today at work I was contemplating how we'll be able to address this forum. I'm not. Today at work, I was contemplating how I would speak in a forum like this with so many persons. However, after seeing Tremaine Griffith, I got bold. He's one of the former ambassadors for St. Thomas, and I was really pleased to see him get out here and speak, so, you know? Okay. All right, let me start. Getting down to brass tacks. Here in St. Thomas, we have people living below or within the poverty bracket, and they're ashamed to speak up because of what people will say. But for me, I know people talk anyway. We got people without electricity, people without inside toilet and bath, people with young children who every day have to deal with the people laughing at them or talking about them because they don't have a finished house, etc. I probably fall into that bracket. However, I don't allow anything to stop me from getting up every day and looking for better. Honorable Prime Minister, I don't usually ask for help. However, tonight, I'm asking for a little help. Secondly, you mentioned going to BRA and you said the person was here we could speak to, so I won't go into that. I would like to thank the Barbados Police Service for continuing to protect and to serve. However, I would like to know why, when it comes to domestic abuse cases, they seemingly are being handled poorly, right? I'm not here to criticize, but just to state that fact. When victims call for help, sometimes the manner in which an officer turns up is very distasteful. How does a 4-month pregnant young girl go to court and the judge has not been presented with paperwork for the 3 previous acts of domestic abuse? And may I also add that the perpetrator is not required to compensate the victim, but only to pay child support. I'm a former Lester Vaughan student. I have friends who are former Lester Vaughan students. So tonight, I'm just asking that, that situation could come to a quick resolve. Lastly, I'm most passionate about children, education, and sports. I want to thank our nation's teachers who continue to positively impact our nation's children, those who go above and beyond. However, I get annoyed when I recount the many situations I have encountered or heard about, referencing the treatment of some of our nation's children. Honorable Prime Minister, I honestly believe that after thorough investigations into some issues that arise at our schools, teachers need to be held more accountable for the role they play in contributing to some of the behaviors that our nation's children experience. Right? And I say that from a point of knowing. So despite everything I mentioned at first about my situation, whatever, I am the current PTA president at the Lawrence Tigay Memorial School. I am the former PTA president, former vice president, former secretary at the Sharon Primary School. I'm the former treasurer, secretary-treasurer at Queen's College, former vice president at Ellerslie Secondary School. I am the founder and director of the Free to Be Me Book Club. I'm the founder and director of Reach Out and Touch Our Children's Charity. And through those things, I have assisted children with reading. I have given back to needy families. I have done a lot of work, despite everything I mentioned before, right? When Tremaine Griffith was ambassador for St. Thomas, we had an in-depth conversation about revamping sports in St. Thomas. All the pavilions and stuff that you see just laying there dormant. I know time is limited, so I'm going to stop there. However, I'm going to ask that I get some assistance with bringing my programs to St. Thomas with the help of Tremaine, seeing that that was our passion when he was attendant and when he was ambassador. So I'll finish there. Thank you.
No, Stephanie, come back. For somebody who wondered how they were going to get up and talk in here this evening, I think all of us need to give you a big round of applause. Not only have you been very articulate, you've been touching in what you said, and I think that what you have gone through, just ensuring that sense of anxiety about talking, is a lesson for all of the rest who are listening. I learned at a very early stage in my life, at 18, 19 years old,
that the worst thing in life is fear and anxiety, and that they paralyze people, and the conversations take place in your head. And sometimes you need to give the conversations a little oxygen. And when you give it oxygen by sharing with somebody or just by trying, I keep telling people I'm a Jimmy Cliff girl. You can try and you'll succeed at last. And I think that if more of us share openly as a people, you'll be surprised how much comfort you will give to others who are listening and who recognize that they're not walking that road alone. So I really want to thank you for having the courage to share your anxiety and to show also how you can overcome it by speaking as eloquently as you have tonight. So thank you, my dear.
Thank you.
With respect to the matters, AJ, I was actually going to call on you because the one that hit me the most was the domestic abuse.
Let me begin by saying I share the Prime Minister's high commendation for your thoroughness and for your articulateness, and I'm certainly impressed that with young children you were able to do so much. I wish that as a parent I could have had half as much of that energy. In relation to your first item, and that is to do with domestic violence and the treatment of domestic violence victims by the police service. That is perhaps one of the most frequent complaints that we get in relation to the police service. We recognize that there's a need for sensitivity training for police officers, and it's not just domestic violence, it is, and I have to be candid with you, it is often the way in which they treat women as opposed to men. Sometimes there's an unfortunate familiarity when they go and do the operations. Now, this is not at all to suggest that it is rife in the police service, but the fact is that if it happens once, it happens one too many times. And I'm afraid that from the number of reports we have, there is a prevailing view that police officers are not sensitive enough, they're not patient enough with the individuals who are the victims, and there's a feeling that they tend to trivialize what the people are going through. We have insisted that the police put a number of training sessions in place to help those police officers who simply keep getting it wrong to change the way in which they relate to the public. But I'd like to go a little bit further and remind you that not just in the area of domestic violence, there was a voice note last year where a policeman, whoever answered the phone at the police, it was a male, his response to the lady who called in was less than appropriate. And it is clear that we have a challenge. Now, the Prime Minister will be the first to tell you that police work very long hours. Sometimes they can get little short tempers, sometimes they let circumstances get the better of them, and they fail to provide the human face that we expect. The only way we're going to be able to address it is through training, and we've mandated the police service to deal with that in a frontal way. Last year, in an effort to help to identify some of the deficiencies, and I'm sorry for going on so long, but sometimes it's difficult to spot the deficiencies yourself. So we asked the UK Metropolitan Police to send down a team of expert police assessors to come in and look at our police service and help us to identify those areas in which we've fallen short, and are raising out of that to give us a training platform that we can hopefully see a better quality of service in sensitive areas like domestic violence. On the positive side, I can say to you that we've had engagements with our magistracy, and our magistrates are treating domestic violence matters with urgency and priority, not entirely across the board, but for the first time, Prime Minister, we're getting complaints from criminal lawyers that the case is getting adjourned because the magistrates dealing with domestic violence matters urgent and first, and not at the end of a day of hearing. So we're beginning to see some significant improvements in that way. Your question about compensation, though, I have to tell you that a domestic violence matter is not one in which compensation arises. A domestic violence matter is heard by a magistrate to try to prevent further domestic violence from taking place. That's what it is for. It is not for adjudicating on who was wrong. It's not for adjudicating on whether or not somebody should be compensated. That is a matter for another place. So if you have a domestic violence matter and you expect that the magistrate will say you have to pay so-and-so $1,000 or $500, that is not within the magistrate's jurisdiction. I don't think there were other matters for me.
The other matter related to poverty and people without toilets. That is why the government started the program with the UDC and the RDC to be able to eliminate pit toilets and to give people waterborne facilities. And we are in the process of continuing it. It is an arduous task. We felt that the numbers had increased at one point, and we'll get further confirmation, and they had increased since we were last in government. But I think a lot of that happened when people were not finding work, and over the course of the last decade, 15 years, people who could not stay in the house, I've seen examples of it somewhere, they were allowed to build a shanty in the backyard, and in the shanty invariably had no access to waterborne facilities. So the government has been working at it. I think that it was when we were up in Parliament was meeting up in Worthing just after the debt restructuring. I announced that we started a program for UDC and RDC to be able to get back in there. They've been doing it. Of course, they got a little distracted in a major way with Hurricane Elsa and the storm, but they've still been focused on the elimination of pit toilets, and will continue to be a program. As the year goes on, there are other things that we would like to do, but as I told Santia, a lot of this is in stride, because the one thing we will do is to help deal with people's issues. But we have to do so in a way that allows us to sustain it, rather than to go and start and leave a man house exposed and then you can't finish it. So we're working on certain other measures that hopefully during the course of the year we'll announce. Okay? That was the last person. One more. Thank you.
My name is Anderson Yerwood. I live in Welches, St. Thomas. I have two questions. I'll be brief because I know it's pretty late. I just wanted to get an update on the mini stadia, if St. Thomas is earmarked for any, and a location and time frame. So I know, I guess the Minister, if he's here, might be better able to answer that.
About update as to whether St. Thomas is going to get bleachers and the mini stadium as we had talked about. Charles?
Good night. Thanks for the question. Definitely so. We have started work at Bridgefield, and that is the location that we will be looking to put the mini stadium in St. Thomas. Yeah. Time frame, we are currently working with NCC in terms of putting in the berms. We have to fence the location as well. So I would say mid-year we should be close to finishing you, or before. Yeah. We've started. We've started.
And Madam Prime Minister, my next question, I guess, is for you. I would like to address an issue that I guess is very troubling. It affects a lot of people in Barbados. It affects me personally as well in my professional capacity. And is the issue of the probate registry at the Supreme Court. The issue of the probate registry at the Supreme Court. All right. You have a situation whereby it's taking 3 and 4 years sometimes to get grants of probate. And you have tens of millions of dollars being somewhat held hostage over there. From my interaction with the probate registry, as a practitioner that my practice, a major aspect of that is probate and estates. Also as a member of the Bar Council and the convening Supreme Court Committee, communicating with my colleagues and also the Supreme Court Registry, this is a situation of lack of manpower. So I'm asking you, as the Minister of Finance, if you...
I don't think it's an issue straight of lack of manpower, and the AG has stepped out. But I feel strongly, and I've said to them, as recent as the last estimates, not the ones in the well, but when they came before me, that we need to deconstruct and reconstruct. I never practiced a lot of probate. When the probate rules were settled?
But 1970s, 80s, a long time ago. Before my time, even before I was born.
Exactly, over 50 years. And therefore, the AG will tell you he's walking back in now. The AG will tell you that I have been adamant that we need to be able to deconstruct and reconstruct the rules of probate and to bring them into the third decade of the 21st century. With respect to personnel, when they've asked, they've gotten. So if there's a shortage of personnel, there's no reason for them not to get it. I suspect, however, the problem is that if you go and put, what is it called, a simple gingerbread? That ain't gonna last long. Bottom line is that you need to deconstruct the business processes and then see how best you can digitize as well what you have deconstructed and reconstructed. And once we have that, then we will have a better idea of what the staffing needs really are. But if we just go and put people on top of people on top of people and still got old systems, what's going to happen? You're going to have the same problem. So AJ, I don't know, I answered in your absence.
I'm not completely, I just like to finish and can come back.
I'm complaining about the length of time, 3-4 years for probate, and that there's a need for staff. So I was trying to explain that I've asked for the deconstruction.
I heard your part,
well.
I just wasn't sure what his question was. Anderson, we're beginning to get the issues in the probate section dealt with. There are some new things that we have to do and are beginning to do. Our first consideration, though, was how we deal with the backlog. And I can tell you that we have significantly reduced the backlog going back as far as 2011. So that at this point in time, from 2011 up to about 2022, or maybe 2021, less than about 5% of the probate matters remain incomplete. There are a number of reasons why they're incomplete. People maybe haven't paid the fees, lawyers. So there are a number of matters, but we've managed to get rid of much of the backlog. So we're now focusing on 2021, 22, 23. In order to deal with the backlog, we've engaged lawyers, experienced lawyers, to come in and just go through the files in a fairly consistent and rapid basis, and that's been achieving results. We are moving towards digital processing for probates, and there are some new initiatives that we are looking at doing to just, without trying to bore the audience, I'm mindful of time. So for example, if you're doing an estate, you got to produce a whole set of birth certificates and death certificates. Invariably, you got to go and order these from the registry, and they come to you, and then you go and file them, and then somebody looks at them. That is a lot of processes and an awful lot of $5 bills. What we are looking at doing is digitizing all of the births and deaths, all. And we know that we can go back to as far as I think about 1880. When we digitize all those records, they're going to be searchable. So you'll be able to go online and look for your grandfather's birth certificate. You don't have to go and order it. You can click on it and move it from here to your probate file. Eliminate all that kind of stuff. So there are things like that that we are looking to put in place during this financial year to cut down a lot of the up and down, the paperwork and so on, and also new probate rules. So just be patient with us. We're getting there, and I'm fairly sure by the end of this financial year, not only will the backlog be more or less completely gone, you'll be able to see a faster turnaround time.
All right, thanks. Because I mean, this year, even if you look at it nationally, with there being such a big deficit, and you are talking about looking for internal investment within the country, if you're able to have these grants processed in a faster period, then that is millions of dollars into the society. A lot of these properties are then sold. The government will get revenue from stamp duty, property transfer tax, and then you have persons that have ready cash available for investment. Could be starting a new business, entrepreneurship, buying government bonds, government paper, or buying other property. So I just
You're absolutely correct, and that's why, in addition to the digitizing of the records, I've asked for the deconstruction of the process, because things that made sense in 1970 may not necessarily make sense in 2024. So we will review the process, but as I'm glad that the AG has indicated that the majority of the backlog has come down, but it is not acceptable for us to be in a position where the backlog can come again. So that's why the deconstruction and the reconstruction comes. Okay?
All right.
But you're absolutely correct on what is tied up, literally. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
I'd like to invite the Chief Education Officer. Where is she? Thanks. Madam, would you like to give us an update on Lestervaughan Secondary School, please? Thank you.
The Prime Minister. Thank you. Good evening, Prime Minister. Good evening, everyone. I'm very grateful that Ms. Fagan raised the concern about the status of Lestervaughan School.
Use this and come with the platform. You're all accustomed to speaking on it.
This is not working. This is not working. This is not working. All right. I feel more comfortable down here anyhow. Sorry, Prime Minister. All right. Pardon? Yes. All right. Good evening, Prime Minister. Good evening, everybody. As I was saying, I was grateful that Ms. Fagan raised the question and the concern about the Lestervaughan School, because we too at the Ministry of Education are very concerned about Lestervaughan School. In reading the reports from 2018, the Board of Management has been addressing concerns associated with that school. They have conducted industrial cleaning. They have changed the cupboards from wooden cupboards to metal cupboards. They have cleaned the air conditioning units. They have engaged in deep cleaning. The most recent concern that staff members had was that related to the smell of sewage. They said that whenever it rains, they could smell something like sewage. As a result, the Board of Management engaged an external company to come in and perform a smoke test. This is where they pump smoke into the sewage system to see if there are any cracks in the well. So if they see smoke coming out at the top, they know that there are cracks or there are breaches. There were indeed breaches, and I must say that the chairman and the Board of Management moved swiftly to have those breaches fixed. And those breaches were fixed by applying grease, what we call low-order grease, so that when the second smoke test was done, to ensure that everything was working as it was supposed to work, they saw no smoke coming out from the wells or there were no cracks or anything like that anymore. Everything was sealed up. And it was against that backdrop that we said, all right, well, if this second smoke test is telling us that everything is fixed, it means that the teachers and the students could return. And this was the week of the February 27th. The teachers returned to the school, students returned to the school. However, on the very first day, the teachers said that they were still feeling unwell. They were still feeling sick. Some of them, they were still experiencing certain symptoms. And the teachers, because they fell ill, we didn't have enough manpower to teach the students as we would want. They could not engage in any meaningful learning. As a result, we had to close the school. So on the 27th of February, I visited the plant. I spoke with the teachers to find out exactly what the real issue was, because to my mind at the time, we had done all that we could do to make sure that the plant was safe for our students and safe for our teachers and non-teaching staff. And they explained to me that they were still experiencing these symptoms, they're feeling sick and so on. And the decision, therefore, was made because, again, we would have been in the position to have to close the school, nobody to teach, not enough teachers to teach the students. We said, all right, well, we are not going to close the school for closing the school's sake. What we will do is that we will transition to online learning, but with the caveat that these 4th and 5th formers who have to do CXCs, those 4th and 5th formers who have to do their practical exams will be accommodated. That very same evening, contact was made with the head of BAPS, which is the Barbados Association of Public Secondary School Principals. And I informed him that there was a need for all the principals to come together and help the students at Lester Vaughan, and where possible, accommodate those students in their labs and in their wood workshops and metal workshops so that these children can indeed work towards completing their SBAs. I am pleased to report that to date, that has progressed well. We have received assistance from schools such as the Darrell Jordan Secondary School, the St. Michael's School, Foundation School, the Duncan Moore Center, the same center here, and Jackman Seventh-day Adventist, Combermere, St. George Secondary School. So the principals of those schools really pitched in to help us because we want to make sure that our children receive a valuable education. And 4th and 5th were the priority, as I said, because they are the ones who will be writing their City and Guilds exams and their CXC examinations. Now, all of that time, an air quality test was done by an independent company to test. Indeed, we didn't see the smoke, but sometimes you don't always see the smoke. So we did an air quality test just to double check to make sure that there were no noxious gases in the atmosphere. And when I talk about noxious gases, when you think about wells, you might have gases like methane coming off, or you might have hydrogen sulfide. Those gases that can be poisonous if they have very, very high levels. At low levels, they can't do you anything. Hydrogen sulfide and carbon monoxide, we're breathing in that all now. But if the levels are exceedingly high, they can be dangerous to our bodies. So an air quality test was done. The chairman of the Board of Management and the other team members decided that they will do this air quality test. And I am pleased to report that yesterday, I received the results of that air quality test. And the results of the air quality test are favorable. As Ms. Fagan said, the results are good, meaning that when they tested the quality of the air above the 8 manholes, the quality of the air did not show any noxious gas levels or what they call volatile organic compounds, a concentration that will be harmful to the body. Tests were also conducted at the mouth of the cave to determine whether you have the hydrogen sulfide and any other dangerous gases. The report is saying no, you don't have any levels that we should be concerned about. Now, having received the report yesterday, afternoon, I quickly convened a meeting with the unions, the chairman of the board of management, the management of Lester Vaughan Secondary School last night, so that we can discuss the results and see how we can seamlessly transition those children back into school. I was very mindful, and we were very mindful that next week is the last week, but we were playing around with certain possibilities, soft start, maybe we should bring in all, we were just discussing it. After that, just today around 1 o'clock, I had a meeting with the staff members, and I shared with them all of what I just shared with you. I must say also that I shared the report with the principal, and I asked her to disseminate to the Health and Safety Committee, and I asked her also to share it with the staff members shortly after the meeting. But I shared that with them, and they were willing to work with the Ministry of Education to educate our children. However, there were still some concerns about the environment and about the reopening. We were able to listen to those concerns, and I know persons might be wondering, so why do you have to go through this process? But it's a process that this Ministry of Education goes through. You'll meet with the unions, then you'll meet with the staff members, then you'll meet with the parents. But we met with the staff members, and as I said, some of them still had some concerns. So following the meeting, I quickly called my colleague in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Kenneth George, and I told him I need his assistance, and he has agreed to come tomorrow or send his team to do an environmental assessment just to make sure that everything is in order. Because the last thing I want as Chief Education Officer is for us to open the school and say, yes, it's good to go, and then you have to close again, open and you have to close again. It disrupts education. We do not want that for our children. And at the end of the day, we all have to work together because those are the children that will carry Barbados forward, right? So I want to let you know that given all of the feedback I received from the unions, given the feedback I received from the members of staff, a decision will be made tomorrow with regard to the way forward for the Lester Vaughan School. That decision will be conveyed to the parents. We will have a meeting with the parents at 6 o'clock in the evening. That has already been set. We don't want to go out and share all of what we're going to do with the public before we talk with the parents. So we're going to meet with the parents first, and shortly after that, we will have a press release so that you will know how we will move forward with the Lester Vaughan School. So that is it in a nutshell.
Thank you for the very comprehensive report, Chief. And we wish you all the best. We wish the teachers and the students all the best. And we hope that we can get back to normalcy for normal business to return shortly at that institution. This is the season of exams coming up, and therefore it does matter how much people are exposed and are given access to the tuition necessary to get through the exams that will be around the corner after Easter. I'd like to thank everybody who came out tonight. I'd like to thank the public officers for staying a little later. As usual, we have a deal, leave early on the afternoon, so I owe you 20 minutes. and thank you very much to everyone else who came out. And until we go into our third year now, where we start in St. Joseph next month, and we'll let you know the dates for that. Thank you, good night, get home safely, and God bless everyone.